Welcome to the Whitetail Legacy Podcast.
Tomorrow is opening day.
This morning, didn't have a great hunt. Deer didn't move like usual.
We just got set up in the middle of this bedding thicket. We've been saving this spot from the rut. It's a nice, I think it's a nice buck.
Boom! Hits a 170.
That was money. I think he's down right over there, 10 yards.
Whitetail Legacy Podcast, bringing you back to the hunt and leaving a legacy.
Baller rut.
Welcome to the Whitetail Legacy Podcast. Earlier I said the only podcast on the air that doesn't have a buck down, but we can change that statement to the podcast on the air that has 2 bucks down. So pretty happy to share that with you. Story of Mr. Freeze. I know a lot of people have been waiting on this. I've got a lot of messages about like, dude, when's it going to come on? I mean, I'm like sat on the edge of my seat. I'm like, well, we got to go in order. And this is an early one too. This is not 3 weeks out in advance.
Yeah,
so
this is ripe.
I told Homey I wanted to wait a little while and let it soak in before I talked about it instead of just doing a podcast like a day after I shot it, because I still would have been like just jacked to shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So kind of let it soak in a while and really get the good stuff out of me. So we're going to get into our partners quick here and get to the story because it's probably going to be a long one. So let's start with the title sponsor, the VIP Veteran Broadhead. I just want to put another shout out for your buck. I mean, that thing did its job on that. And then the amount of people that are putting pictures on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook right now of bucks that are in does and turkeys and gators and pigs and stuff that are getting shot. It's just insane. So that Broadhead's putting in a ton of work all around the United States and in Canada too. So
Yep.
that's pretty sweet. So go ahead and hit him with the VIP Veteran Broadhead shout out.
This week's VIP Veteran Broadhead shout-out is Marshall Snyder. He commented on our Facebook post, and he said he loves the show. So a veteran tuning in, listening to us, and loving what we're talking about and putting together here. So that was pretty cool. And Marshall, hold on to your seats, man, because we're going to get a good one in here.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, yeah, just want to thank you from my family, Cody's family, everybody here at Whitetail Legacy, and Matt and Cindy.
Yeah, and the VIP family.
Today we just found out that Matt said when we hit 3,500 followers on Facebook, he will give away 2 packs of Veteran Broadheads.
And then they got that Christmas deal going on right now.
Yep, and they got the
$35 for a pack.
Right. So
That's huge.
if you've went into Walmart and have shied away, now's your chance to get into a pack.
Be careful because once you get them, you're going to have to buy the full price
Yep.
when you're going to buy new because you're not going to want to change anything else.
But it's going to be maybe a year or two.
Yeah,
because
you're going to have some
you're
time.
going to be able to reuse that Broadhead.
I'm
over
still
and over.
using 3 years ago Broadheads. So,
Yep.
all right, let's get to Ingram's. You got a little buck. You got a buck up there at Ingram.
I see what you did there.
Yeah,
I
no.
see what you did there.
I got a buck in the podcast room, not at Ingram's. He's got the cape though. It's like half a buck.
Yep, I took my buck up there. I don't know. I'm not sure how I'm going to get this buck mounted quite yet. I got a couple different ideas. Maybe do a full sneak or do another offset shoulder. And then I'm also thinking about doing a pack mount too. Just kind of like, my last place on the piece. So kind of.
We should have packed it out too.
We should have packed it out. That ravine was large.
Yeah. Are you gonna make your own pack out of wood, or what are you thinking?
If I do go that route, I think I'm gonna make my own pack, but I don't know. Like some that I've seen online are like old and rustic, and they look sweet. But I don't know if I kind of want to do like a new age one because I haven't seen one, kind of a newer age. So
Like a new age pack. Are you gonna
Right.
like have the hide rolled up?
Yep.
And stuff.
Yep,
like a
rolled.
pack?
Have them roped in, or
Yeah.
if I do like a new age one, I like to get one like on like the backpack, like your backpack, that stretchable. Maybe get that somehow, get him enter into that.
Yeah, that'd be a sweet
So,
idea. Something different.
Chris is gonna do it, and
Yeah.
we're gonna get him
I
mounted
think he's
up
got
somehow.
a lot of unique mounts going on this
Yeah.
year, so it's pretty exciting for him. I know he's super stoked. So let's get into ECW calls. They re-signed with us
For
So,
sure.
I know. So they're liking what we got going on. So we're excited about that. We still would have repped them and still used them, even if they didn't re-sign with us, because we got our kids using them now.
Yeah.
So something we did do, we got Aiden and Rayner custom engraved grunt tubes with the date on them and their name. So when they grunt in a forked horn and shoot it, that's going to be pretty special.
Yep. It's
I'm
going to be
like,
sweet.
You're grunting, dude. You got this all day. That's going to be sick.
Yeah. So another veteran-owned and operated, all
Yeah.
100% American company.
And after season, we're going to get up there and really showcase the actual amount of work that are put in this calls and do a short video for him, like we did the VIP, to really show what Jeff's about. you
Yeah.
know. So, and the final one, scent lock. We have a ton of snow in the Midwest right now. We got like 13 inches right now, and I've been hunting it on and off. And the bottom of that bag being leather and just being able to throw it in the bed of my truck and not worry about it, or throw it in my driveway and get my clothes off, or out at the field, put my clothes on, just being able to put it on the ground is huge, man. With the other bags I've had, you're not able to do that because that moisture is going to soak through, and then you're going to have a mildew problem. But it being leather is such, like we always say, the fine details of scent, like quality scent lock products, or Oz products. It's insane, So
Be sure to check out that Oz 500 with the 8K combo.
yeah, that's what I
Christmas
got.
is coming up, man. That'd be a sweet
Yeah.
gift to unwrap
They
on
got some
Christmas
good
Day.
deals on Christmas too, right
Yeah.
now.
Yep.
Did you get one of those fleece pullovers?
I
didn't do it,
seen
man.
I
seen
did
it,
it,
and I
and
was
then I
like-
seen a guy posted one. I was like, dude, that looks just as sweet as I thought it would,
Yeah.
and I didn't do it.
I know, $15 for a fleece.
And then it had a sweet deal on socks too. I was
Yeah.
like, oh man, I need more
I need
socks.
socks, yeah. I've been sick. All right, here we are. We're going in. We got Nick Brown in studio.
What's up, Nicky B?
How's it going, guys?
He was on what? You know what episode?
I think it's episode 13.
Homie's really good at remember episodes. So he's from the way back.
He's
studios,
OG.
Studios changed a little bit since he's been here. We had mics on the table. Now we got stands, and we got Woodford Reserve, and
We got big screen.
we got big screen TV going on. 200s on the table, or close to 200s on the table. Nick actually found the sheds to this buck the year before. We'll get into the story of that a little earlier or a little later. But he wanted to come here. I want him to be here. He pretty much assisted me to get on this piece back in the day. He seen a guy or a kid that wanted to hunt hard and wanted to learn how to do it, and he's like, man, you need to check this piece out. And we checked it out. We shot 3 squirrels and then found a 70-inch shed. So we were like, let's just go squirrel hunting on it. We'll check it out. It's that time of the year where it was I got it and it was already shed season. So and then he was like, let's just shed hunt it, shoot some squirrels. I think we got a rabbit too.
Got
3
a rabbit.
squirrels and a rabbit and a 70-inch shed. So and then right where we found that 70-inch shed, I shot 2 of my bow bucks right there. So it's pretty special. I wanted him to be there. This is a monumental moment in my bow hunting career, and I'm blessed to share it with a couple good friends tonight, and good whiskey, and
You know
a warm studio.
The last time you said some monumental moment on this podcast, we sent a veteran through a bush light.
Yeah, yeah, that was another monumental moment.
Right?
But this is a little bit higher, just like one step up. But I mean, I want to start all the way back from the beginning, but I kind of want to get I want to get Homey's perspective of hunting this deer out of the way first, and then I want to hear Nick's perspective of the story, and then I'll tell the story. Or do you think I should tell the story and then get the perspective at the end? What do you think?
I don't know if I get to talk right now. Do I get to interject while you're talking, or is it?
This is
do we
all
just
you.
gotta shut up.
This is all you. Yeah. I think telling your guys' side of it first, and then they can relate to it as the story goes on, will be better.
Okay.
Okay, so you go.
So
I'm gonna
Cody,
get some whiskey.
Cody, showed me trail cam pick last year, right after he got Mr. Freeze and Daylight for the first time, And that was, the November 27th, 26th-ish time frame last year. And, not really being on Cody's piece it was hard for me to, like, visualize where this deer was at, because I'm like, dude, this is, like, kind of a shitty picture. I mean, in reality it was, because the deer's angling. He's kind of got his head down in this tall CRP grass. I never been up there. I've driven by it on the road, but I haven't been actually up in that grass or by, where the camera was or how it's positioned. So just seeing it, I'm like, well, that's definitely a giant deer,
The reason I had the camera like that, just so they know, is it's really hard to get pictures in that grass.
Yeah.
So I put it up high, angled down on a trail that I'd be getting a lot of does coming to a feed field. And the picture right before him was a yearling doe, and it was 9 in, which is crazy.
Yeah, I think it was like 9:37.
Yeah, 9:37 in the morning on the edge of a field, 80 yards from a road.
Yeah,
or so.
see, so I mean, I was just gonna get to that.
So the picture
you're just showing me a giant.
Yeah, the picture really showed, like, you couldn't pattern him off that because you could tell he was just there because of the doe.
Yeah, like you could tell he was definitely on that hot doe. And so it's definitely, late rut, last doe or, handful of does I was in. And so we go in this year, and, Cody puts cams up he's like, dude, this deer was on the beans last year. Beans are down here this year. I'm going to put this cam up. And, we got a pretty good shot of getting him on cam if he made it.
And it was right where we found the sheds, too.
Yeah.
We put the cam where we knew that he was wintering because of where from where Nick found the sheds.
Right.
Yeah.
And where you got the picture of him last year was at the complete opposite end of the farm. So I let you just, know your piece, really. So first card pull, I mean, what did we let it soak? 2 weeks?
Yeah.
3 weeks? I mean, we let it soak a little bit. And I think it was the first deer on it was Mr. Freeze. And I think you got him going out, and then I think you got him maybe 3 days later coming back in on a full frontal.
Mm-hmm.
Got right up in the camera, and man, dude, you could just tell right there.
I really couldn't tell if he was going down at that point. He just looked so old. Me and Nick were talking about that earlier. He just looked so old in that picture. I couldn't really tell if he was going to be what he was last year, but I could tell that he had a lot of the same characteristics. He had those inside kickers started. Mm-hmm. He had the heavy mass,
Because this is, the still dead middle of summer, and we've talked about it on this podcast, is when you're trying to age a deer at that point, I think a lot of people get thrown off because they're not used to looking at deer in, without their winter coats on, so they really get thrown off. And his body, dude, his belly was, big, round, blocky body. His neck, where it tied into his chest, like, it was sagging already.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for all them things to be going on with his summer coat on, we're like, dude, this guy's got to be at least 5.5, 6.5,
Yeah.
And it was a really good picture of him. And, I think that picture when we got the full frontal was August 15th, because I just looked at it when Cameron shot his deer. So, August 15th, if he's going to be anywhere where he was last year, where we had his sheds, I mean, we're like, this guy's got to get his ass in gear and get going. So
it's insane how much he grew from August to Hardhorn.
So we kind of, Cody's like, hey, we got this scrape tree, which I'd already seen this scrape tree that they're hitting on the way going out to this field, and on the way back in, he's like, dude, we're going to set you a stand-up right here. Nobody's ever hunted in this area before, never had a stand here, nothing. So we cleared out some trees, hung a stand-up, and, I'm pretty sure you've said on here before, you've had a camera there early, but then you've always pulled it because there's been nothing.
Yeah, I've ran a camera there, like in my mind, I was thinking, okay, they're shedding velvet, so they're going to be rubbing here.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a rut rubbing area only, and it was early rut because once mid rut hit, that scrape stopped. We stopped getting. They're still traveling through there, but they weren't hitting the ground scrape. They're hitting the tree scrape, but they wasn't keeping the ground scrape open. And the ground scrape ended up being further down.
At the food plot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we cleared out a spot, hung a stand, hung a cam. I brought a cam that I had not functioning right from summertime, and I brought it home. And then I was like, dude, I'll just bring that cam out. We'll throw it on that tree, and at least it's up and going because I'm not going to drive an hour to put up a cam. Just
we hung
one,
a cam
you know?
there real early season 2, and we got a picture of Sidekick.
Yep.
And
yep.
no Mr.
We had the
Freeze.
mobile there early.
Yeah, we had the mobile there early. Just because it was easy access to get in there.
I think it was the next day after we were in there.
Yeah.
Or
we
you
had
went
Sidekick
back
there.
the next day to straighten it up or something because it wasn't sending anything. And then, first deer is Sidekick. So, we got a game plan to leave a camera somewhere that we know is going to be hit later. And lo and behold, we get Mr. Freeze the dead middle of October.
Yeah, never had a picture of him
When
in the
we
last
never had
2
before.
years in middle October. So we hung that cam on that scrape tree, and then I said, I don't know what we said. It was set a couple weeks. 'Cause it was mid-October when we got it, and we were about ready to podcast.
Yeah.
And then we pulled that cam. I pulled that cam right before, and I was accessing this stand through like a wicked deep draw.
Yeah, Bill Winkies is proud of us, I can tell you that.
Homey just was like, the access to the stand is garbage, repeatedly. He's like, I'm sweating when I'm getting there, and it's 100 yards access. I'm like, yeah, you had to crawl out of a mountain.
I think
And,
in one of my interviews, one time I hunted there by myself, I said, Cody's got me playing American Gladiator just trying to get up in here to this stand.
But it was the right way to access that thing.
It is perfect.
It's perfect because I got in that tree and then had a small buck feeding acorns 60 yards from it and never seen me, so we did that right, and then ended up getting pics of him. We pulled that card and we looked at the pic and I go, oh, that's him. But it was kind of a crappy pic, we couldn't.
Yeah.
It was a good pick. We got a lot of them.
Right.
But it was hard to really tell what he was. We never got like a real clean, hard horn, like this is what I am pick.
So the way we're just trying to get him on cam, and when you see a deer like that, you're going to know what's him. And so we positioned it on the east side of this scrape tree, and the trail is on the west side of the scrape tree. So the scrape tree's in the middle. And he comes in, turns right off the trail, looks right at the scrape tree, and then you can tell in the sequence of pictures he's like doing the head bobbing thing up and down because the flash is going, So he's bobbing up and down, but his 3/4 of his right side is behind the scrape tree.
Yeah.
And when we say a scrape tree, it's like, it's a legit tree, dude.
Yeah, it's like thigh thick tree.
Yeah, it's no joke. And we're in here. I got it on the laptop on the big screen in the studio, and Cody's like, "That's Mr. Freeze!"
I'm like, there he is, middle of October, and did a dance for a little bit, and
then
the camera. Oh my god,
If
we spent 2 hours trying to figure out the time on the camera because something was messed up. I don't know if the batteries were low or what the deal was, but the time kept, like, we'd set the time and it would not work. So we had to go from like, I text you when I was pulling the cam, what time did I get the picture?
we went off your arm pick.
Yeah, my arm pick was, and I text you, I was on the phone with you. I'm like,
Yeah.
So I called you at this time. What does the camera say? Then backtracked it to when the deer was there. And it ended up being like 6 hours and
47 minutes or
40-something
something.
minutes. But we got her down. I'm like, okay. He's there at like 3 a.m. So all that work was for nothing.
Yeah.
But he was always going the same direction.
Like you could tell it was pitch dark, but is it, 8:30? I mean, is he close?
Is it 8:30 and he's coming from the other bedding area, or is it
Like-
in the morning and he's going to the other bedding
Yeah,
area?
is it 8:30 and he was daylight somewhere on your piece?
Yeah.
But nope, dead middle of the night. And went back in, set the time. You did.
Yeah.
Still didn't hold it, so time's still jacked up. And then it says it's like January 1st, 2015. I'm like, oh, sweet.
Yeah.
So, got the picture, I guess. So that's, what
Yeah,
we
when we
needed.
release the picture in video form, people are going to be like, 2015?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we'll just crop that out.
That really got us pumped up because, it's something new. We're trying to, we think this deer is older, think his home core area is going to shrink. Really figuring out where he's bedding. We know where he found his sheds. And then there's another spot on your piece, this grass little finger that you were talking about. And, we started putting that into play because of the way when we got him on the mobile cam, the way he's angling through your piece, 40 minutes before daylight. So we're like, all right, he's not going far. That was early October too.
Yeah, like
so
17th.
he's not going to be up roaming around until 9 a.m. So, we're like, he's coming out of this bedding, hitting the mobile cam, going to where this other
on the southeast. On a
southwest. Yeah,
southwest. Yeah.
So that was also another thing that we're looking into is, every time this deer shows up, it's southwest wind. So we're game planning. We had
when he shows up on the north, it's southwest. When he shows up in the middle, it's whatever.
See, I think it's because he's got that. He used
Using that draw.
Used that southwest wind to check all that when he was going, and he's like, okay, it's good. So then whatever it is when he gets up, he's already checked it. The southwest wind was coming into play, so.
We pretty much knew that we couldn't kill him at that point.
Yeah, and the reason that we thought he was going to this piece is because when you go shed hunting, you're like, dude, this little spot is just tore up, and you can definitely tell that a buck would push a doe in there and just hold up.
Yeah, and then
nobody's ever going to be there.
Yeah, I got the trail cam pictures of him coming out late December of it, or early December at dark, right before dark, like 25 minutes, and then I got. I seen that 8 with a drop that I ended up losing last year come out of that in the middle of October. So I know that big bucks like that area. I know there's a lot of sign, and I know that he's bedding there by the trail cam pictures. There's literally nowhere else he could bed.
And you find a handful of sheds in that every year. So then that's when we started game planning on here on this podcast. We're gonna try to get on the screen house, do some radical stuff. And then we're going to go in, hang a stand on a southwest wind, and hunt it.
But we put a camera there.
But then we put the camera there off the field edge.
And he wasn't accessing that side of the ridge. He's accessing the other side.
Right, because we had him 2 times on the mobile, I think.
No.
And then never on that cam where they're crossing the ravine at. So he wasn't really going to that bedding area is what we found out. And then that just kind of was like, damn, we thought we were close and just... didn't pan out. After.
He wasn't accessing that bedding area the way we thought he was.
Yeah.
He was going to it, but he wasn't accessing it. He was crossing that ravine, hitting the west side of it, and then coming up right by the screen house. So my plan was to kill him the first week of December still.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Like right now. Or like this shotgun season.
Yeah.
Was, I felt really good about this shotgun season or early December.
So got into that plan, and we're just kind of back to square one again, just kind of being a random deer, but still likes the southwest wind. And, we're not matching him up from point A to point B quite yet.
The only thing we knew was that on all the trail cam pictures that we had, he was never bedding. If it was a north, he wasn't bedding on my piece.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that we knew. He was early in the morning headed west.
Which, he was bedding there. I don't know why I said that. He's bedding there because we got him on the scrape tree so many times.
Yeah, he's bedded there, but he's going to the...
And he's not bedding by the double man stand because that's just flat and open.
Well, I mean, he could bed there. I mean, and that's the thing that I might have changed him this year was I still haven't accessed that. How many acres is that, Nick? What do you think from the screen house to that ridge? If I'm just staying on the north, like all that,
probably maybe 8.
Yeah, I mean, so 8 acres. I didn't, 10. And there's a couple dead tree, those big oaks that fell a couple years ago.
Yeah, I've jumped decent bucks in there with snow on the ground.
Yeah,
that you would go, oh, that's a really big buck. Before you got to the double man stand on that trail.
Yeah, right there where I think he's accessing that. And before I knew he wasn't bedding there because I was accessing the double man stand, so I would have walked right past him and blew him out. But then he was there 25 minutes after dark after I just walked back through there. Mm-hmm. So this year he could have been using that more because we didn't even hunt at the food plot stand.
No.
So even if the wind would have been swirly there and kind of blew me back in there, I didn't even hunt that. So I literally haven't hunted on that small of a piece. I haven't hunted 8 acres of it, so then you're cutting it even smaller, but that's what we had to do.
So that was, late October, really, mid to late October, when, we're just kind of like, well, that plan's out. We still got the screen house still into play because he's coming out of that bedding and he's hitting down by this scrape tree. So that's still into play. But is he going to be through there on a wind that we can hunt? We just kind of rolled
We kept getting pictures of him at the scrape tree.
Yeah.
On the trail, but not on the tree, because we moved the
Yeah.
cam to get better pics.
Mm-hmm.
And we never got a really solid pics, but when you see him, you're like, oh, yeah. Because, you'd be like, oh, that's a nice 140 class buck.
Dude,
you
it's
scroll
hilarious.
Be like, oh, 140. Oh, that's nice. That's 8 with a kicker. That's 140.
Yep. You're like, shooter,
Oh, yeah.
shooter,
There's
shooter.
M14. That's a decent buck. And then you're like, wow, God, there he is. There's Mr. Freeze.
Just takes up the whole picture.
Yeah, you're like, oh, there he is, And
we were hunting there. We were hunting hard, but we're hunting right. And all of the stuff we did, all the running cams, all the hunting, all the walking around, right where this deer's standing, pissed in a couple scrapes and never spooked this guy, never, ran him off. So
go ahead, Nick. I got a lot that I'm thinking of, but I'm going to save it for mine. So we'll get Nick's side of the story now, and then we'll go to mine, and I'll fill in gaps and go from there.
I'm going to take this hoodie off.
Yeah.
Well, my side of the story is, I know that Cody been seeing this deer and chasing this deer, for the year before, and pretty excited about him. And it was really past that time of the year when most guys were probably like, yeah, I ain't looking for sheds no more. I got home from work one night, and I'm like, you know what? We can go look for sheds tonight. And I walked out. Fortunately, about this ground that Cody hunts, I live right there.
Yeah, he lives right on it. So
Right
I get the immediate update of like, oh, 3 does in the north field, a buck in the north field.
So for the last 8 years, I get to see a lot of these deer that he's shot, and and people are like, well, why don't you hunt it? I'm like, well, I never wanted to be a big buck hunter, I guess. I don't know. I never got into that. So anyways, one night after work, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go a little daylight and going to go look for some sheds and walk out. And I walk through and I'm like, wow, that's a pretty nice shed. And I pick him up and turn around and I'm like, holy cow. Match set, And I set them side by side, and I'm like, yeah, it's match set. And I click a picture on my flip phone and send it to my buddy. He's like, text me back. He's like, hey, you care if I come over and look at them? I'm like, nah, go ahead. I'll be here. I found 4 sheds right there.
Might have found M14 shed.
Another 4-point shed and a little 2-point shed. And Cody came over and same night, about an hour later, and he's like, "That's him. That's the one. That's him." I'm like, okay, cool. He's an awesome deer. He's all broke up. You couldn't get the full effect of what he was because he was broke. And Cody's like, he's got this and he's got that and he's broke up. And I'm like, yeah, he's a solid deer. He's solid 170s. If you easy.
Yeah.
And like I said, time goes on, and I had a trail camera out right behind my house, and I was getting pictures of him.
Mm-hmm.
Early too in August. I'm like, man, he's coming. This is definitely the same deer, because he's over here.
And just that massy base. There's
right,
not
just
something that's
massy,
carrying that massy base around.
It didn't even look.
You had a picture of him where it was just main beams. He hadn't even started
Right,
browse yet.
yeah,
and
just
you, and you
main
were like,
beams.
oh yeah, that's got to be him.
Yeah,
It's
just
same
mass. Like they was saying, he didn't. It was getting late in the year, and it was like Cody had that picture of him where he could see he was looking old. I'm like, man, he's old.
Yeah, he was
I
looking
mean, he had
older.
like skin hanging and
Yeah.
sway back. I'm like, man, this deer's just old, you know? I mean,
And when you pick those sheds up, you're thinking, yeah, the mass and the kickers, and it's like when they get old, they start throwing that
weird
junk
stuff.
and weird shit.
I mean, I've got sheds from there, and a lot of these sheds have got junk, you
Yeah.
know, and they got crazy palmations and just a lot of good stuff going on. And there's been a lot of weird kickers coming out of there for years now, and these guys, you know, they're all technical deer hunters, you know. they're talking about all the trail camera pictures and the wind and stuff, and for 30 years I've hunted deer. I'll be 41 years old this December. For the last 30 years of my life, I've hunted deer. And I've always told guys, I'm like, I don't care what you have on picture or how much you paid to hunt that ground every year. If you're not there to kill the deer, it don't matter. It don't matter if you paid $2,000 to lease that 22 acres or not. It don't matter if you had 2,200 acres. If you're not there to hunt it, it's irrelevant. What was it, Thursday? I was in Nebraska with my dad, deer hunting with my dad. And Cody called me a Thursday or Friday night. We was talking, and ever since he's been on this ground, I mean, he's killed a deer from mid-October to early November, a decent buck with his bow. And he's always called me. He's like, man, I got this deer down, and it's a good deer, and, you know, and I think the first two I didn't get to go out and retrieve. And last year he shot that big 9-pointer, and I'm like crying in Natalie, dude. This thing's a moose.
Yeah.
We're dragging it through the beans and the mud, and I'm like, oh my, I'm getting too old for this stuff.
Yeah. Thing
But-
was huge.
So we're talking Thursday, Friday night, and the kid ain't got deer down yet. And he's like, man, I'm almost burned out, Nick. I'm like, you know, well, how much time? He's like, I got 120 hours in the stand.
That's like ass in the stand.
120 hours in
Yeah,
the stand.
not just
I'm not
gone
talking
driving.
about hanging out, setting up in the stand.
Yeah.
In the stand. Okay, this guy works numerous amounts of hours at the railroad. I mean, 60, 70 hours a week at the railroad, year round. He's got 2 kids from a baby to 2 years old. He's got a great wife.
Yeah. Super solid wife. Let's
I
go
mean,
deer hunt all the time.
this isn't, we're not talking to Bill Jordan or Michael Waddell and stuff. I mean, this is a guy that loves to hunt, that's putting in the work to get it done. And we're talking, and he's like, man, I'm burned out. And he's like, I'm almost kind of like, I'm over it for the year. And I'm like, you know. He'd been the weekend before, he'd been down to Missouri with his grandpa rifle hunting, making memories, passing on deer. You know, passing on deer, most guys be like, well, I paid $200 for this tag, so I'm going to shoot it because it's a buck. And he's passing on it.
That was a solid buck. I seen that film.
Yeah.
I mean,
That
he's
was-
passing
that was
on
nice.
it. I mean, but that's who he is.
You can't. I mean,
mean,
I plan on going down there next year.
Next year, so
and that buck would be a
hopefully
good one
the
next
buck's
year.
still,
you know?
yeah.
So-
I mean, hopefully next year he's still there.
and I got to stay and hung, and I know he's using that pinch. So I'm
Is
like, you know, you never know.
He'd be a shooter next year for
Yeah.
sure.
Definitely. It was kind of, I'm like, well, you know, you're putting in time and work, and that's going to come around. And it came around.
Yeah.
And
holy
we're
shit.
driving home Saturday morning from Nebraska. I'm tired. I mean, me and my dad been hunting for a week, daylight to dark.
Yeah, that's a
every
whole story in
day.
itself
I
right
mean,
there.
Yeah.
Like the last day we hunted all day long, I walked 8 miles.
Did
know.
you camp it, or did you hotel, or did you mix it?
Airbnb.
Airbnb. Hell yeah.
I'll tell you right now, I'm a redneck through and through, but Airbnb is the greatest thing in the world. Man, you can Airbnb anywhere in the world and find a great deal. I mean, I'm gonna give a shout out right now to Mrs. Cheryl Schrock. Great little ranch house in the middle of nowhere. Beautiful. It was awesome. Great. Cheap. I mean, you cannot get a hotel for $500 a week.
Yeah.
It had 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a full kitchen, living room.
Damn.
And be like, yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, Airbnb all the way.
All right, that's a good tip.
We still got a truck at one time.
Yeah.
But we're driving home. My dad's driving, and I mean, we left Nebraska, and it was shit. It was like it is in Illinois right now. The roads were icy. It's 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. And we're halfway across. We're almost to Iowa or whatever. And my phone rings, and it's Cody, and he's like, Nick, he's like, I shot him. I shot Mr. Freeze. I'm like, dude, I mean, I wanted to cry. Yeah. I mean, really, I wanted to cry.
I cried.
I'm like, you know what, bud? That's what 120 some hours, 2 states, and no deer got you. That's what that got you, man. All the trail camera pictures and stuff, that just makes the story even better. The match set that I found last year, if somebody else had shot this deer, I'd be like, yeah, I got the match set for that deer. Here they are. But guess what? They're staying on my dresser.
Yeah,
but
right.
this is my guy.
Yeah.
This is my guy.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, them are yours. If it was anybody else, they wouldn't have enough money to buy them.
I remember talking to Nick. He's like, bro, I was like, dude, I'm so glad you found him because I know he's alive, you know. And I'm like, okay, so he's wintering here, so I got a really good chance that he's summering here. So my idea of him summering here is gonna be right. So I'm like, I'm just gonna run trail cams there. I'm like, if I shoot him, bro. And he's like, "Oh yeah, you can have him." I was like, "Come on, man!" But
I knew that. I knew this deer was there.
Yeah.
I mean, this deer, you know, like he probably had a home area maybe 300 some acres.
Yeah, that's what I think.
He probably wasn't even covering that much. I mean, this deer had everything he needed and he wanted right there. He had good cover. He had good bedding areas. Plenty of does. Gang loads of food and water all the time. There's natural springs on this ground. There's ponds. There's awesome bedding areas that surround this piece of ground that nobody ever sees because people don't let them hunt the ground.
Yeah,
and it just makes that area so much better.
Yeah.
I mean, in 30 years of deer hunting. If I had $1 million to buy a piece of ground, I'd buy that 22 acres and that would be it.
Damn.
Because, I mean, never in my life have I seen the quality and the quantity of deer and that's one of the reasons when Cody was looking for a piece of ground and he was having a hard time getting to it, I'm like, you know what? Here's this lady's number. I know these deer are here because I see them. I don't really care about hunting them. I love deer hunting, but I never got into it.
Yeah.
You know, I never got into holy cow, you know.
Yeah.
I was more excited finding the sheds last year.
Yeah.
That probably would have been shooting the deer almost, you know. I mean, to find a match set.
Nick calls me with a button buck down with a muzzle loader. He's like, got a button buck down. I'm like, hell yeah. You know, you're Jack. I love it. We get along great.
But I mean, he got in there and every year he's taking a quality, solid buck off of this ground. Not because he's got good trail camera pictures. It's because he's in there getting it done. He's in there putting in time in the stands. He's sitting all day. He's freezing. It's raining. It's snowing. Hey, I'm taking my buddy out to shoot a doe today. And I shoot Mr. Freeze.
I know, that's insane.
And I told him, I said, yeah, you make sure you tell, I'm texting him from 300 miles away. Yeah, Jake, make sure you tell him you're the reason he got that buck today. Because we're going to go back there and get a doe.
Yeah. Nick text Jake that I had there. He said, save the button bucks for me.
Yeah, eat tender. I like tender.
Hell yeah.
By the way, that is the wrong stand to shoot a doe out of.
It is. It's a terrible stand to shoot a doe out of. But I was there because I knew that was the place to be, and I told Jake, I said, we're going to sit as long as we physically possibly can. Jake brought a lot of food with him. He had Chinese pot stickers in the stand, man. Who brings Chinese pot stickers out there? He breaks out a bag. He's got Chinese pot stickers. I'm like, what are you eating? He's like, Chinese, bro. I'm like, all right. You want one? Yeah, sure, man. Hit me up. I got to pass up free food, but yeah. So.
But no, I mean, we got home and I got home on a Saturday and Sunday night I told the wife, I was like, all right, I'm going to go over to Cody's and look at him. Because she's like texting me from, I'm still 400 miles away. And they're going by my house. And, of course they stop and they're like, and my wife's like, holy cow, that's the biggest deer I've ever seen in my life. My 8-year-old daughter's like, Dad, that deer is huge. I'm like, well, yeah, I know it's big, but, so Sunday night I got to come over and see him and listen to Rainer say, big buck, and the wife go, he just looks at him all the time. He looks at them antlers all the time. Like, we're just, whatever with the kids. Let me look at these deer antlers.
My wife's like, you want me to sleep on the couch tonight so you can sleep with the horns? I was like, well, that's a possibility. I mean,
yeah, can we get that going?
But to find the sheds, in the next year to have them put them down is probably, you see guys that do it and they're like, oh yeah, I've got 2-3 years of sheds. I've got 4 or 5 years, but to actually finally put it in perspective with somebody else that and that you're really close to is probably one of the, probably number 2 on my most accomplished badass things of 30 years of deer hunting, man, for sure. Because the last few years I've kind of got out of the killing portion of deer hunting and
turkey hunting and everything, I mean you've been, that's what you're doing. You're turkey scouting when you found the sheds, weren't you?
Yeah, just
get ready for a youth season for Alex to go out.
I mean, it's just, it's awesome, really.
It is, yeah.
We're sitting here right now, I'm looking at these sheds and this rack, and I'm like, it couldn't happen to a better person.
No.
I don't know about that, but
I mean, a lot of guys say it's luck, and I've always told guys, luck's got a lot to do with it, but you gotta be there to be lucky. And in my book, 95% of killing a big deer is being there to kill that deer. Because if you're not there, you don't know.
If I would have been there that day, he'd been.
I would say that's what we're finding out because we're not smart enough to figure him out yet. So we're just hoping to be there and be lucky.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. I mean, you can have all the pictures in the world, but you'll never. I mean,
it's like
that deer did not get 190 plus inches by being
I mean, that's what
erratic and.
Me and Homey were talking about 42 shots opening shotgun morning.
Right. I mean, that
in the morning.
In the morning.
Up till from
that area in the last few years has got a lot more pressure in it. I mean,
from the morning. So wait, we could shoot at like 6:20 or 6:15,
right,
to 10:30.
Yeah.
I mean, 42 shots.
42 shots.
So you think half of them, So 21
Misses.
misses, or you know,
Probably
a second
more than
shot.
half.
Yeah, and then you know how many are does and how many are bucks. You know,
Right.
Yeah. I know there's
So-
a couple of solid bucks that got dropped.
would you just say 8, 6, 7, 8 solid bucks done
Yeah.
in the first morning? You know,
Right.
And
And
then
just what you can hear.
the bad thing
And
was
the weird thing is a lot of guys, you know, the first shotgun season was kind of crappy here. Like I said,
Yeah.
I was out of state. I ain't got a shotgun tag. We was out of state, and the weather was kind of crappy. But they killed more deer first season this year than they did last year by quite a few numbers.
yeah.
Last
I was
year,
really surprised. It really surprised
I
me.
can't remember what it was.
Last
I
year it
just
rained.
read it 2 days ago.
Yeah, Saturday it rained. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was it was real windy.
yeah.
And I was down in that draw because you got beat up that first day.
Oh,
Remember
I got hammered.
that first Saturday was just like 30-mile-an-hour
Friday?
winds. Yeah, or Friday. Yeah,
Another thing I'll say is this is the first shotgun kill buck that
Yeah.
Cody's taken off of this property. All of his buck kills off of this property have been with the bow and arrow up until now.
yeah. It's just, I mean, I would love to get it done with a bow, and if I would have been in that stand with a
Bow
bow,
or shotgun,
yeah,
190 plus inches.
Yeah, I mean, you got-
190 plus inches of antler on the ground.
yeah, you got to do it.
I don't
So.
care.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he would have been 40 yards at one point if I'd have kept letting him go.
Oh man, dude.
So, but he was at 60, so I was like, time to go.
Right.
Pretty much when he cleared the brush is what I shot.
Yeah.
You know.
I seen
So-
the video.
Yeah,
I
I didn't
mean-
give him much time.
Did you have the volume
Right.
on?
The video is not PG. We're gonna edit that for you guys because I get pretty stoked,
pumped
but-
up.
Oh yeah, pretty
But-
pumped up. All right, well I'll just fill in the pieces a little bit of the story. So the year before Nick found the sheds, so I got a picture of a deer late October, chocolate horned, real heavy, 10-point with kickers or split brows.
I thought is that 16?
Yeah, this is the year before.
Yeah.
Like before he found the shed. So not.
Well, he found the sheds this year, technically.
Yeah, okay. So this would be the year
Right.
before that.
16.
Yeah.
2016.
Yeah. Okay,
Yes.
so 2016. And I see him, I'm like, okay, I get one picture of him. I'm like, that's a buck that I want to hunt. And he's probably 150s, maybe a little better. You know, just real nice deer, nothing crazy. Just heavy mass. And he's on the back. He's on the back of the north. I'm like, okay, this is a killable deer. It was in daylight. So I was like, all right. And then I never got a picture of him again. Then I was in there hunting. I ended up shooting Homeboy November 12th, which was another deer that I was after. And I was like, you know, I'm pretty satisfied with Homeboy. I got both of his sheds the year before. He blew up a lot. Great bow kill. And I kind of like set back a little bit and was like, okay, you know, I'll shotgun hunt and then I'll go a little bit. But that was, you know, middle of the rut. So after I shoot a buck on that place, or even after you shot that doe, it's like that, just that little bit of pressure. It's just a light switch of just like
it's
the mobile
insane.
cam, just nothing. You know what I mean? So I know once you shoot a buck up there, you're pretty much, it's done, you know, for a while, just dragging them out. Just that, I don't know.
And nobody's even been there since then.
No,
so,
it's just the pressure of that one time. It just, these big deer just don't handle it, I guess. I don't know. But anyways, fast forward the next year, I get a picture of a deer in velvet, just a stud.
Oh, yeah. I'd like to see that velvet pick of him
Yeah.
in 17.
Just a stud. And I'm like, all right, this deer's got it going on. And it was crazy because I remember I just had hung the mobile cam a couple days before, and I was just feeling out the Moultrie mobile, you know. And I get a pick. I just sat down in my chair at the house, and I get a pick.
Was that it? I remember
Yeah,
that. You
yeah.
were like, man, I just put this up and
Yeah.
I get this picture. Like
I just
2
got a
hours
picture
later.
of a giant, you know. And I guess get a picture of this monster, and it's in velvet, so obviously it looks bigger. But he just looks, he's got his ears kind of a little bit back, but he just looks wide. He's heavy. He's got a lot going on. He's got the inside kickers. He's got split twos. I'm like, oh man, he's got split brows. I'm like, this thing's got it going on, you know. And the first picture I get is just like a third of its body without the rack. I'm like, oh, it's a giant deer. You know, and it's like a 3-shot burst, a boom, 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 and the next 3 are him like turning every direction. So I'm like, awesome. I get this buck, and then I get the runner up 10, pretty close to then. And I'm like, all right, I got two. I got one buck that is right on the edge. I probably need to pass, but I got one that I know is a giant, and I'm going to chase, And then nothing. I get nothing, just like I expected this year. I get him in velvet, series of pictures, and then I get nothing.
Did you have him in velvet last year as long as we did this year?
I don't know,
because we had him for like a month in velvet.
I don't know.
I know I had at least a month of them on my camera in velvet.
But see, this was on the very north side of my property, but it was beans up there. Yeah, but it was beans up there.
But the crop field had rotated crops.
So I was like, he's here on the beans. That's making sense. I'm like, okay, he's back in there. He's coming up over this ridge, so he's basically coming like from the double man stand. So he basically could have been coming from that grass bedding area at that point. I just didn't know. I just get pictures of a giant. It's really hard to, when you get 6 pictures, you're like, I mean, I know where he come from kind of, and I know where he's going kind of, because you really can't piece it together real good. And then nothing, and then November 27th, I get a daylight pic of him, and a guy pulls a trail cam, and he shows me, and he's like, oh, here's a decent buck, And I'm like, oh, that's him. That's a giant. It just doesn't look like a giant because the angle of the camera. I'm like, oh, that. And then I'm like, all right, he broke off this. Well, he broke off his G4. He broke off inside kicker, a split brow, and then half of his other inside kicker at that point on the trail cam. And I was like, he's still a giant. I'm still chasing him. And I was like, okay, so he's here and he's headed in this grass in the middle of the morning. Then, late November, I get a trail cam picture at the double man stand, right before second shotgun season, and it's right before dark. So I'm like, okay, he's coming from, like, towards your house. He's coming from your house, headed towards the bedding area, So I'm like, where is he? I'm at this point, I'm like, I have no idea where he's bedding. It hasn't dawned on me. So I'm like, I'm going to go hunt that double man stand and hope that I got 20 minutes. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go there and hope that I get it, get a crack at him. With the shotgun, I'm like, man, if he was 100 yards out feeding and he finally got there on acorns, I could maybe possibly get him. I had the right wind, so I went in there and seen no deer at all. And then I went like the long way around trying not to get on the same trail that this deer was on. And then that shotgun season was super hot. Like, it was hot temperature. So I was like, well, I'm going to go to the north and set up there. I feel like I got better wind here today because it was more north that day. So I'm like, if I set up double man stand, it's going to be blowing right where he's coming from. So I'm going to go to the north, hoping maybe he comes to this field or, maybe looking for a late doe. And I hunted that. And then it's like December 3rd, December 5th, December 7th, he was there, like repeatedly. I'm like, all right. And he was at the double man stand, and he was headed towards the north. And I was like, all right, I got to get in there and hunt hard late season because I feel like if a deer is there at that time frame after the rut, he's going to stay there. You know what I mean? He's going to be there because he has no reason to leave because he's not going to be chasing does. He's not going to be looking for other food because it's already cold enough. He's found his zone that he wants to be in. So I hunted him hardcore, and we had a lot of really cold temps last season. And I remember the last hunt of last season, the sun setting on the last day of season, and I'm like, I didn't get it done. And I passed a button buck that day, and I almost shoot that button buck. Like, last doe of the year, right at dark. I'm like, I almost shot that button buck. It was like 5 yards right there on the north stand with that corner.
Right by the fence?
Yeah, right there.
The deer was right by the fence there?
Yeah, right where it was crossing right into it. So I was like, I'm just going to let it walk, And I walked out of there, and I was upset, of course, because the season was done, always. As a hunter, when the season's over, you're like, well, now I have 6 months, 7 months where I'm like, I can't do this. You know what I mean? So it's a depressing feeling, but I took it, and I was like, all right, I feel like he's going to be here next year. I feel like I got a good chance. And at that point, from the trail cam pics, when I got him in summer, he looked old. When I got him in the rut, he didn't look that old.
In 17.
So I was like, all right, okay. And then I was like, he was on the beans this year, so I'm expecting him to be on the beans this year, so I'm going to run cams down here.
He was on the beans last year.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we started early on cams, like real early. Like most people didn't even have cams out, and I was like, homie, we got to get out there. Because I was looking.
I even had a cam out before
yeah,
you did.
You had them out way early.
Yeah, like, I mean.
Yeah, way early. But I was like, I'm looking for $2. I'm looking for Sidekick, the Big 8 that was with him, that was starting the splits, and then the Mr. Freeze. And I named that buck this year, actually on this podcast, because I have the most pussiest toes out of any guy I've ever met in my life. My whole body's fine. My toes are just done. So I was watching Batman, and I was like, dude, Mr. Freeze. And I was like, that's a pretty solid name. I'm like, that's what I did for this buck. I just froze my ass off, repeated hunts, because he shows up in late season. You know, a lot of guys late season,
they're at home watching
they're
football.
done. You know, after that first and especially second shotgun season, it's over, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I was still out there, like, putting in all-day sets late season. Like
plus, I mean, you got a high 140s buck down with a bow already.
Yeah, you know, and I'm just like, I'm going to keep grinding. And that's one thing I always did. Like, once I got one solid buck down, I'm always after a monster. Like, I could have double bucked on 140s, 150s every year. But what's the purpose once you got one down? Let's go. And then Nick knows the one that I talked about that I lost on here. He's seen it. Well, I was after that deer. And I was, almost successful with him. And then the next year, I had that 10. I had him to chase when I shot Homeboy, but I didn't really have like a giant that I was chasing. Besides this big 9-pointer that I seen during the rut, probably just a cruiser. But I was like, that deer's out here. And I know at any time.
What about the 188 point?
That was the same year I shot
the
one I lost. Because remember, I called you, and I was like, I got a 168 in front of me. I text him, and Nick's like, you better shoot that deer.
And then you let him walk, and the next year, somebody on the neighbor's property shot him. It was a 188.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the thing, if you didn't let him walk, he'd have been a 168 is a solid deer.
Oh my God!
But a 188, holy Batman!
But I was after a toad. I was after a freaking nature.
You can't even describe this deer.
Yeah, I was after.
I have a shed off of that deer too.
Yeah, I was after a freaking nature. You know what I mean? And
Cody shoots Mr. Freeze, and he's like, "Oh, dude, this is way bigger than that deer I lost."
Yeah.
And then I walk in the studio tonight, and we go out and getting your deer meat out of my truck. You're like, "Shit!" Nick and I were just in here talking. He said that deer that I lost beat this deer by 20 inches.
Easy.
Yeah.
Damn.
That drop, dude. That drop just probably added 20 inches to him.
Did it go below his jaw?
Yeah, like way below.
I've never seen a drop like that in my life. Most drop tines, they come off the main beam and they go off to the side or something like that. My dad's got a drop tine he found one year off of it was a 12-point typical with a double drop tine, a double drop on both sides.
Badass shed.
It's a nice shed.
Yeah.
But this drop tine on this deer, like it came right off of the right there off the pedicle.
Yeah.
It just went down right in front of his nose. I mean,
so it had to go out.
It had to go out
and then down.
And down. So it had to go out like 8 inches to get to his nose and then down, and he didn't break it off.
Craziest thing you ever seen.
And I shot him Thanksgiving weekend, which what most people were, they're like, oh, the rut's over, shotgun season already came through, and I'm out there like, and a yearling doe, and he ran across 1,000 yards of open field to get to me.
You seen him coming across a road?
No, I didn't. That's the only way he could have came. That's the only way he could have came. He ran from the strip mine ground across the road, way over there, all the way across the field.
Literally to 35 yards of your stand.
Yeah, within 35 yards.
Dude, that is sick.
So, on a yearling doe, it's crazy, but yeah.
Once again, if you're not there,
you
never know what's going to go.
That day was
even know.
so cold. It was so windy. I was in there on a questionable wind. I knew that deer was there. I got pictures of him Halloween night, and I was like, I got to get in there. I got pictures of
drop time from the year before.
Yeah.
There's something about Halloween night. I don't know what it is, but if you got a giant on your piece, it's gonna be on your cam Halloween night.
Yeah, he was there late, but and then I don't know. But anyways, okay, back to Mr. Freeze. We've talked about that buck a lot, but
Right.
it still burns. I mean,
Right.
damn.
It was definitely.
That would have been a bow kill.
It was a time in his hunting career
God.
that it really
I was low.
it ended his whole
yeah.
his whole season for that year. I mean, the kid. I was like,
Just
I'm trying to pep talk him, and
Right.
he's like, nah, whatever.
Yeah.
But anyways,
just the way that went down,
It
you're
went
tracking
down.
him, you kicked him back up,
mean-
and then just see him running away. I mean, just
the deer couldn't even run. If you could sprint through a pit cornfield, you could have
could've caught him.
tackled that deer.
12 hours sitting. That just goes to show you when you think you hit a deer bad and you need to wait and you wait 12 hours, you're like, okay, if I hit, he's going to be dead. That's why I'm so like, homie's like, wow, shit, it's been 8 hours. I'm like, let's wait 62.
I know, I know it was back, but it's been 8 hours.
Yeah. I'm like, let's just wait because when you have that happen, but I mean, that deer's got to be dead out there somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
No one's found him. One of those peak
He's probably about 40 inches now after the squirrels.
Yeah, I took four days off work, and then I had Thanksgiving break on top of that.
Man.
So
I can't imagine the hours you put in to try. I'd stop on the road
Yeah.
faithfully in the mornings on my way to work, and stop and shut my car down, and listen for crows and coyotes.
Yeah.
To be like, okay, pinpoint an area where they're feeding.
Yeah, I
back in
probably
there.
called Cody three, 4 times that weekend, and hey man, what are you doing? I'm looking for this deer. I was like, damn, dude.
and the amount of property that I had to look on wasn't a lot.
Right.
Right.
So I really, but the best thing about it was I learned. I took that advantage to learn that property too, because I had access to track a deer on property that don't get hunted.
Right.
So I took that opportunity to be like, okay, I'm really going to learn this thing and figure out, well, if I was like that spot that he was bedded, we kicked him up. That's big
Yeah.
buck bedding all day.
Right.
Like we got within 40 yards of him and he didn't even know we were there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Damn.
So, I mean, it's just, when you get in that creek draw, it is thick, man. You get, even late season.
The
you
one
got-
that runs all the way, the whole
Yeah, the one that runs from the road. Dude, it's just insane.
Yeah.
thick.
road all the way up through there.
Yeah.
Mole full of rows and hedge trees.
That's all it is.
Just like where it is at
Yeah.
on your piece.
Yeah.
Damn.
Just insane. But like you see the edge of it on the backside where you can barely look into it. That's what it's like. It's just all the way through there.
Oh, right from that stand.
Where I shot Mr. Freeze.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah,
The whole
way.
Oh, dude.
Just down trees and hedge and like draws that don't even make sense. Just like 60-foot dips that are like straight up and down. You're like,
Right.
what the hell is it? Well, that's what we did. We seen him go in that 60-foot dip, and we were like, he's got to be there.
No way he's getting out of that.
No, he wasn't there. I remember going out there the next morning, and I creeped over that edge, and I seen a bedded doe. I seen a bedded deer at first. I was like, oh, my God, he's right there. And it was a doe. I was like, oh, my God. But, that's it. But
We're going to call this one the story of giants.
yeah.
Right.
What? So we were at Mr. Freeze. I don't know where we were at exactly, but okay. So one thing that you missed, we get the trail cam pics on the what was the date? 13th, 14th,
October?
November.
November?
I didn't talk about this. So we get them at the scrape tree, like Homey talked
Yeah,
about.
you got it on trail cam like 2 hours apart from my house to the next trail camera in the same day. I'm like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, and then we got him on the mobile,
yeah.
and then 2 hours later he's on the scrape tree.
Yeah.
Right.
So he's like
Right.
he's there, and then he's back there. I'm like,
Right.
dang, man, he's running the whole thing twice
Yeah.
in 2 hours.
Oh, he was on your cam that same night? On the 14th? It was the 14th.
Yeah, I don't know what the 14th or whatever it was. but
Yeah.
he was on one end of the farm, other end of the farm, and then back within the 2 hour span. So
Damn. So he started out on Nick's cam?
did you have your cam out?
No,
No?
but
Oh.
he was behind. You said that he was behind the house.
Yeah, he's behind the
Oh,
house.
yeah.
Then he went by your
North.
other
By the
cam,
mobile, yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, whoa.
And then he was going into that bedding area where I
Right.
shot the buck last year coming out of. Mm-hmm. He was 5 yards from my stand, but it was pitch black out.
Dude,
10
literally
o'clock at night.
5 yards.
Yeah. So once you've seen that mobile cam, you understand
I
why
was-
I'm always like, God, it's
You
right-
should
Yeah.
You should have seen my fluid head arm
Yeah.
when that doe was on the mobile cam. I mean, it was just literally 180 degrees up in the air. I'm like, this is straight down.
Yeah. Like when that 8-point came out with a drop, I'm like, that deer was 5 yards from that stand.
Oh, yeah.
20 minutes after I left. So, but yeah, so we get him. He's on the 13th or 14th, whatever day it was. He's on the whole entire property, like from one end to the other. And obviously he's cruising at that point because that's the only thing you would think he'd be covering that much ground that quick. So he hit that
erratic.
He hit that downwind side of that little doe bedding I was talking about.
Yep.
Where those 3-4 does bed, and then he was going up north to hit that doe bedding area, getting that security cover, and probably hit that. And then I don't know if he went on to the neighbors. Then that would make sense if he went on to the neighbors and kept cruising.
That I know the 13th because I hunted the buck nest. That's the day I shot my deer. I know that was a southeast wind. I don't know what the 14th was, but I'm willing to bet it's not a southwest.
Yeah.
I don't think it was. I think it was going to be southeast again because I was going to hunt the buck nest again all day. I was going to do back to back.
Because remember, I couldn't hunt there for a while because the wind was messed up, and that's when I was on Boonertown.
Right.
When I ended up passing on Mr. Maybe.
Yep.
So up there, and then we get him at the Scrape Tree Trail again, and then at this point, it was close to shotgun season. I'm like, he is bedding back there. We had pinpointed him down to 2 areas that he was bedding. He was either bedding in the grass next to mine or on the neighbors, because there's no way that there's literally open timber for 150, 200 yards. What do you think from where that stand is to the neighbors? So all the way through that open timber, how far do you think that is?
North to south?
No, east to west. Like if he's at like where the old camper was, and he's going west.
He's going west?
Yeah. There's literally nowhere to bed in there.
No.
Yeah, there is.
I mean, he could bed on one of those points.
They like to bed late in the year. They like to bed to the, but it would be more to the south, to the southwest side of that.
Yeah, back in that back corner.
Right,
he could be doing that. He could have been doing that, but
that's pretty deep there.
The crazy thing was he wasn't on. So we were gonna try to bread trail him, right? We're gonna try to bread trail him on cam. So like, okay, we got him here. Let's put one 100 yards, 80 yards. No pics of him on that at all.
Yeah,
and it's literally it's the same trail. Like it's not like a deer trail. It's like a cut trail.
Yeah.
So he had veered off within 80 yards,
right,
and cut through that little doe bedding and checking in.
The first cam that we had him on that we're trying to track him back to. So we've had him on the Scrape Tree that we talked about, and then we moved the cam
10 yards.
Yeah, 10 yards. Just we moved it legit to the trail to get him,
get a better picture of what he was.
Right, so we get the damn Scrape Tree out of the way. And then the stand that we hung for me, we put. Where the hell was that a cam that you had on public?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we brought in a cam off public and put there literally right before shotgun, and he's on one, not the other. Literally, just like Cody said, a mowed trail, and he's not on both.
So he's cutting through real thick brush. Like, I don't know if he's trying to maybe bump up a doe that's bedded in there and then get on that other main trail.
So did you ever look at all them pics? Because we had like 2,700 pics in like 4 days.
Yeah, I looked. Yeah.
You looked through them all?
Yeah, we got a lot of blanks. Nothing. That one that, remember I told you that was like a half body? That was messed up, not the same date.
Not the same date? Okay. So did he do that horizontal rub on that? You think?
I don't know. That might be M14.
I don't think
might be M14 that likes those horizontal
I don't think we would have
rubs.
got that deer on cam.
You don't think it's too far?
I haven't seen it blown up.
So there's horizontal rubs that kept popping up on my property this year, where they'd pick like a 4 or 5 inch round tree and then push it completely over and then rub it sideways.
10, 12 yards in front of Homey stand.
Yeah.
A horizontal rub
right there, and then another monster rub. But when people say hunt the fresh sign, we run a trail cam on that since November 2nd. All till now, 1 buck in daylight, 1 shooter buck in daylight,
in just shit weather.
Yeah, and just
junk wind. You couldn't hunt it.
No, but I'm just saying, all that time during the rut, you got snow on the ground. You got temps where you think deer are going to be up moving. You got all the rut where they're chasing does. And we got no pictures of bucks. So all that sign is nocturnal, which a lot of people's like, find the fresh sign, hunt the fresh sign. You know what I mean?
Right.
But if you would have hunted there, you would have never. Well, I mean, the trail cam covered quite a bit. I'm not going to say you would have never seen a deer, but from where the sign was, like if another buck was going to go hit that scrape or hit that tree, hit that horizontal rub, you would have never seen a deer in all that time. It was all in the morning. Every pick was in the morning.
Yep.
It was like 4, 5, 3.
Did you check that cam yesterday?
Yeah, and I told you it was all messed up. I got to plug.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was my. I put it in my camera, so I need to put it in the computer and make sure it's not.
Oh, just work.
Yeah, yeah. We've had a
Just
bad
work.
trouble with cameras this year. So, but then we'll get to the actual shotgun season.
All right.
So Friday.
Last week we left off right into Saturday.
Oh, so we talked about Friday when I said we moved the stand and everything, right?
Or no, we did that the week before.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
So,
But
so
yeah, we did cover that because I had the hunt of my life.
Yeah. So we got the stand moved deeper in there where I know it needs to be from this year's intel plus last year's intel,
And just seeing deer.
Yeah, just
I
seeing-
mean, because
yeah.
there's really no
Right.
trail cam back there. It's just
no.
what you see.
Well, you don't want to run a trail cam back there.
No,
'cause it's
there's
too
no
deep.
way. Yeah, it's too deep.
That's when people are like, "Well, I don't run trail cams because it's too much pressure."
Maybe you just put
Well,
the mobile back there.
Yeah, you run a mobile or you run a trail camera on the edge, expecting to get nighttime pics, but then you go off like the honey set. That's pretty close to Nick's house. It's pretty close to that field. So really, to get a buck in daylight, I mean, it's pushing the limits of being on a field in daylight or
Yeah.
being real close to Nick's house in daylight. You
Well,
know what I mean?
even if you go in there in the morning, I mean, you're literally driving by that field, pulling in, getting dressed right there by the field, then walking in, and you're going to be walking parallel with the
Yeah.
deer back there. You know.
Yeah. So like we hung that cam thinking, well, this is probably nighttime pics, but we can learn where they're going.
And we can see what deer is hitting the scrape tree.
Yeah, we can see what is actually there, and that's
Mr.
why a lot of
Freeze
people.
for 3
Like I had a
years.
guy text me, and he said, "Well, I don't like to run cam." Or he asked me if I had a bunch of pics of this deer. I said, "Yeah, 3 years." And he said, "Well, I don't like to run cams because it puts too much pressure on my property." I'm like, "Well, if you." I'm not going to go into detail because I don't really want to know, But I said if you knew how I ran trail cams, I didn't tell them where they were, but they're all on the edge. Every one of my cams are on the edge. If you go, I have nothing deep. The deepest one's the scrape tree.
Yeah, I mean, the trail camera I had Mr. Freeze pictures on.
Yeah, it was right.
I could see that stand from my house.
Yeah, I mean, he lost his sheds 100 yards from your house.
Not even 100
So,
yards.
I know.
I mean, you're
Yeah.
more like 75.
Yeah, I mean, right there, so.
Right there. I mean,
So they're pretty comfortable with your house. They're pretty
Yeah.
comfortable with that
Oh, yeah.
activity.
I mean, the 1 year I had a really, really fire food plot.
Oh, yeah.
I got 2.22 acres. And 1 year I had a really fire
Yeah,
food
yeah.
plot. We had a really,
You found like 3
kind of
sheds
like-
on it, didn't you?
well, we had a mild winter, and then we went away for Christmas. Right after Christmas, we went away and came back a week later. We got some snow, and I had a bunch of brassicas out there that were like 2 foot tall.
Damn.
I mean, it was crazy. It's the best food plot I've ever played in. I've never been able to mimic it yet in my life again. So I come back, and there's snow on the ground, and I'm like, that food plot looks weird. Huh. So I walk out there, I'm like, man, it looks really weird. And I got out there, and there's only like 2 inches of snow on the ground. And there literally wasn't a square foot that didn't have a deer track in it. And that was the year of the last blizzard.
Yeah.
The snow, whatever they call that blizzard now, like 6 years ago.
That's when it hit on shotgun season. Remember that year?
Oh, yeah.
And it was like a week.
Friday was decent, and Saturday we had over a foot of snow.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, after we got that blizzard, one day I pulled in my driveway and I turned in and I'm like, huh, there's a deer out there in my food plot. You're like maybe an hour before dark. And when most guys think food plot, they think does. I'm sitting in my car. I got my little cheap binoculars there. I pick him up and I look. I'm like, that's a pretty nice buck. And I'm looking. I'm like, huh, there's another one. There's literally 6 bucks in this food plot. From a button buck to like, the biggest one was a 9-pointer. I got the match set off of him. It
Nice
was kind of.
Yeah.
This is the guy to get the match sets from.
Yeah,
right
he's
here.
got match set down.
And here's the thing about it, I mean, he's probably got, Mr. Freeze has probably got some of his genetics. Because he's got the bladed antlers and everything. Just like this. And where I found Mr. Freeze's sheds last year, this is why I put that trail camera where I did.
Yeah.
After I found Mr. Freeze's sheds, because I found that match set, one of them right on that trail.
Right on that trail.
Right on the trail. And the other one probably within 20 yards of where I found Mr. Freeze's match set.
Nick's really good at shed hunting.
Not really.
He's. I think the really reason he is because like, in my mind, which I need to change. Like I want to cover a lot of ground, right? And Nick's like, he's just real slow. I remember going with him and he had his kid on his back and he had like some ski sticks and he'd carry his kid in this backpack which he gave me that I still use. I just used it the other day, and he had ski sticks and he'd just go real slow and he'd find twice as many sheds as I would. And then we went coyote hunting one day, and I step over this log. Nick walks around the log, giant shed laying right there. I'm like, damn it! I'm like, my young buck just jumped the log, and Nick's like, I'm gonna walk around this log instead of jumping over it. Right there at the base of the stump. That was a nice shed too.
Oh yeah, nice shed,
real
super nice shed.
Yeah,
that was the same year we found.
Yeah, the other shed up
the
on the north.
The other shed on the north end.
It's nice when you just live on the piece. You don't have to like you don't have to factor in like 30 minutes of driving. So that's an hour. You told the wife like, yeah, I'm going to be gone 4 hours, but an hour of it's driving to and from.
Right.
So then you're like, just like your mindset, like, damn, I gotta get everywhere. I want to hit this spot.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to try this new spot.
I'm like, well, I just got home from work. I'm going to go out shed hunting for an hour. And she's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's still the same.
Yeah, Nick could cover the whole thing. He likes to walk, man. He's a walker.
See, my wife, I'm just like, I'm usually working at like 5, 6 o'clock. But then, like, I'll come home at like 3, be like, all right, I'm gone for the next 2 hours. Just act like I'm at work.
Yeah.
Even though I'm home, but I'm gone,
Yeah.
But that's why I put that trail camera on that trail.
Yeah.
Early this year. It's because I knew. I'm like, man, I found that monster 9-point shed. On this trail, and I mean, you got a stand right there. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's kind of been an iffy stand for you. Early in season.
Yeah.
But usually, it's kind of iffy. I mean, it's a little iffy. But that year I had that food plot. Man,
they were using it a lot
them
more.
Deer were in there every day for almost 2 months.
They were bedding right there.
You could look out the window 9 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 3, 4 o'clock, and see them anytime. I've got multiple pictures of these bucks. I'm not talking about, some little bucks.
Yeah.
I mean, some nice bucks. And they're locked up. And they're, in like a natural setting where most guys, in 20-some years of hunting, I've never really seen deer act like this,
Yeah.
They're posturing. They're showing their dominance. And, I mean...
the craziest thing is this food plot's like...
It's
like 100 yards from his house.
From my lazy boy.
Yeah, I mean, it's right there. And there's like no cover from his house to there. Those deer
still
are just
hunting season, and I'm like, I don't even care.
Yeah,
I found a shed. We found a shed off of every one of them bucks. Of course, not the button buck. And I found a match set off the biggest one.
Yeah, I mean, they were bedding right behind your house. Right behind the house. There in that little, like that creek draw that we walk in on.
Yeah.
Those two little ripples, they were just bedded right there all that year.
Yeah.
I was focusing on the north.
So right behind that stand, it kind of Y's off.
Yeah.
Right.
They're on the backside of that Y.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, it goes into...
There's a really super buck trail that goes up into the front field that runs almost
backside of that pond dam.
Yeah.
There's a little pond dam that's like real grown up, super buck trail on it. And that's why I always like that stand was just, it seemed like a money spot, but I think it's just too open. That's all it was.
Yeah.
Once it got later and they got some pressure, they're just like, it's just a little too, just like that whole timber, it's just a little too open. You know, they just don't like to move in it a lot. But okay, so we're back. We're back here.
back to November 17th.
Yeah. So it's Saturday.
Second day of shotgun.
Yeah.
Second day.
Yeah. I got my buddy Jake, and he.
Gonna go shoot a
Okay,
doe.
let's back up. So the first day I hunt shotgun, I see. So we talked about that tree that was really hard to get the tree arm in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm putting the tree arm up, and I got in there real early because this is deep enough that you want to get in there like 40 minutes before light, you know, because you're right on a feed field. And it was probably 10 minutes before shooting light, 15 minutes before shooting light. I seen that giant deer.
Yeah.
I seen a giant body deer that, like, when it hopped the fence, you heard it hit the ground. You know, you're like, oh, this is a big deer. And when I'm literally facing the tree trying to catch the tree arm strap, and I hear it jump the fence, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's a deer. That's not anything. That's not a coon, you know?
Right.
Going through the leaves. And I turn around. It's at 50, 60 yards. I'm like, dude, that's a tank of a deer. Like, I can make out a little bit of rack, but I can't really tell what it is. And I can just see that it's just a huge bodied deer. I'm like, all right, this is a giant. And I'm like, dude, all I need is 10 minutes of shooting lights. I'm like, and he's kind of hanging around a little bit. And I pull the binocs up, and when you get the binocs on him, you can see like less, I think, because it's so dark.
You need more light, yeah.
And I'm like, all right, I can't really tell what he is. I'm not going to end up taking the shot. And then I think maybe 9 o'clock, I see a really nice buck. It might have been that same 10 that you seen back there. And I'm like, that's a nice buck. You know, that's a high 150s, 160s deer.
Oh, I got that film
Did
on
you?
my phone. I'll show you.
I pull
this.
up on him, and about the time I pull up on him, he's walking away, and he's pretty far out. He's probably 100 plus, and he's on the neighbor's side. So I'm like, you know, and I grunt at him, nothing. He's with a doe, and I see 7 does that morning. And I have does that I know got bumped off the field to the north, and they're running in, and they're like 20 yards, and they just kind of chill out right there and feed.
This is Friday.
Okay. Yeah. And then Jake, my buddy, which is super badass of him, he goes, I said, you can get a buck tag, so if anything comes out, you can shoot it. He goes, no. He goes, I haven't been hunting very long. He's like, I want to shoot a doe, my first deer, and I want to earn a buck. He's like, I want to do it. Even if it's a forked horn, I want to do it on my own, like on public or my own piece.
That's sick.
I'm like, that's badass, dude. If that's what you want to do, that's badass.
Mad respect to Jake right there.
And he's like, I know you've been working hard passing deer on this. I don't want to go out there and shoot something. I'm like, I'm cool with it. And he's like, no. He's like, I want to do it for myself. I'm like, that's cool. So he just has a doe tag. So I tell Jake, I'm like, all right, we're going to go way back in here. I'm like, you need to bring some warm clothes because we're going to set a long time, you know? And he goes, okay. I'm like, you need to bring food and you need to be prepared for pretty much an all-day sit, you know, as long as we can physically possibly sit. And I'm sitting in a very tiny lone wolf stand. And I put him in the bigger stand because he's not really... He hasn't been in a stand a lot. And I got like one of those big game stands that are harder than hell to hang, but it's like really nice, you know?
Yeah, I hung it.
Yeah.
But that lone wolf is tiny.
Yeah, that lone wolf's like, it's my pack-in public ground set. It's really small.
You do not want to do a lot of moving on that thing.
You know, you don't want to. Like, you stand up and turn, you're like, all right, I need to lift the seat on this some gun because I got very limited space.
It's almost just, I mean... It's nice for public land pack-in.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's almost just cameraman status only. Dude.
Yeah, because your feet are like hanging off the front of it when you're sitting there.
It's brutal.
Yeah. So I'm like, I'm gonna set in this because this is, I mean, to get a stand in that tree, you wanted something light to hang.
Mm-hmm.
So we got it in there, and we did that. Did we do that on? Did I pack that in and do it on the first day? We did that on the first day. Friday. We did it on Friday.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
We did it on Friday because I knew that I wanted to get a stand back there for Jake because I seen all them does.
I'm not looking forward to hanging this lone wolf.
Yeah.
I can't reach around the tree.
Yeah, but we got it pretty easy.
Yeah, it was nice.
That lone wolf's real light, but the lone wolf straps wouldn't work. Tree was too big, so we had to use ratchet straps.
Yep.
But we got it in there, and I was like, all right. And then I was talking to Homey, and I was like, where do you want to set? And I was like, I want to go back there. I seen 7 does. The mobile cam hadn't been really showing very many does the last couple days. I really want to get Jake a doe down. I said, I know it's not the premium spot to shoot a doe, but I need to be there because this is a premium shot to get a buck that's bumped off the neighbors onto this piece. And that's what I was banking on. I told Homey, I said, if you're going to see a deer, it's going to use this pinch, it's going to pinch this washout, and it's going to get bumped off the neighbors. And that was my game plan. And we knew that Mr. Freeze was going to that neighbor's to bed.
Yep.
So we had it. We knew that he was over there a lot of the time because he'd had to bed within that open timber, which I didn't really think he was going to do, which he could have, but I thought he was going to be back there.
And I will say I told you to go to the north.
Yeah.
North either stand, the one I sat in Saturday or the one I sat in Friday if you want to shoot a doe for Jake.
Mm-hmm. But I was like, I need to be back there with the potential for this buck to show up because that's like last year, that was my big buck pinch stand. Like the midday, like 10, 11 o'clock, here comes a huge 11-pointer out of nowhere through there, you know what I mean?
So he's like, all right, we can get Jake a doe, and then I can just shoot a giant.
Yeah, that was my plan.
Midday.
That was my plan. Like, okay, we'll shoot a doe early. We'll just let it lay.
Right.
And then,
I would say because it was super cold. It was going to snow.
We'll just let it lay, and then, I told Jake that. I said, well, if you shoot a doe early, we're just going to let it lay. We'll soak in your first deer kill.
Mm-hmm.
We'll try to get it on film. I was like, we can talk about it up there, like how you're feeling afterwards.
Dude, first deer kill on film. How sick would that be?
What you got going on, in your mind, how pumped are you? And then we get back there, and the morning is primo. Like, is one of the most beautiful mornings I've set this year. There's like no wind at all. It is dead silent. We get in there real early, and Jake looks at me and he goes, "Dude, this is beautiful." I'm like, "Yeah, this is."
I think they were calling for a northeast at like 4 miles an hour.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah, it was just perfect, and go back in there, and where I'm setting, the draw is weird as hell, and the wind's actually blowing northwest, which I'm like, oh, it's perfect. That's what I want. You know what I mean? So I go back in there, and Jake, I don't know, it's early. He's breaking out pot stickers and shit. I'm digging in. I'm digging into my bag, and I didn't bring a lot of food. I brought some candies and some peanuts and stuff, and I start eating a little.
Did you bring any Starburst? Because I thought that was a ticket.
That was a ticket. Yeah, no, I brought some those strawberry old school candies.
Oh, yeah, that grandma always had.
The grandma can. Yeah, so I take those just in case I got a cough or something. I can pop one of those in, so I ain't got a cough. But I'm eating those, and Jake's breaking out. Oh man, he packed me a jelly sandwich.
What?
Stat on that. Yeah, he packed me a jelly sandwich folded in half. I ate that thing early. I was like, heck yeah. He's like, I got you a jelly sandwich. I'm like, that's sweet, I'm like, I don't really eat jelly sandwiches by themselves, but it was pretty damn good out there in the stand.
Straight jelly?
Straight jelly folded in half bread. It was baller.
No peanut butter.
No, I don't really like peanut butter straight, so it was good. It was perfect. And then I had a pot sticker, and he had a bunch of food, man. He was set up ready to go. And I remember I put my foot boot covers on because I was like, I'm gonna wear my insulated boots this time. And this is going to be sick. I'm like, I haven't worn my insulated boots because it hadn't been that cold. I'm going to wear them. I'm going to be perfect. I step across a creek, and a huge hole is in my insulated boots, and my boot just gets filled with water. I'm like, I text Homey. I'm like, yep, hadn't seen any deer. Boots filled with water.
It's like 8 o'clock. I was like, hey, man, you see anything? Nope. And I wore my insulated boots for the first time this year, and they got a huge hole in the side. And I stepped in that creek and just filled up with water. Yeah. I was like, oh, dude.
So I put my boot covers on, and Jake's like, hey, man, we hadn't seen any deer at this point. It's probably 8:30 or so. He's like, how long you think we should set? I'm like, I want to set as long as we possibly can. You know what I mean? And he goes, all right, so what are you thinking? I'm like, well, I said, what I like to do is I like to shoot for something and then like challenge myself if I can beat it.
After it, yeah.
So I'm like, let's shoot for 11. Let's shoot for 11. I said, that'll give most of the people time to get out of there. Because we were still hearing a few shots, 8-ish. And I'm like, just get nestled in, we're warm. I gave him a pair of my winter bibs and a jacket. The jacket I can't fit, so I just gave it to him. And I was like, just have it, And he fixed a leak in my bathtub, so I gave him my old rangefinder too as payment.
Oh,
So,
the
do a
one
little
that
trading.
sat outside
Yeah,
for a
well,
week?
yeah.
Nice.
Still works. Yeah.
We didn't hear 42 shots. We might have heard, 14?
Yeah, we
the
didn't
second
hear
day?
much, and 2 of them were homies.
Yeah,
it was
2 of them were
hilarious.
me.
What time was that?
We'll
like?
get. I don't know. Do you want to can I splice in here?
Yeah. Go ahead, splice in. So we're gonna splice in. Me and Jake are deciding, or Jake's talking about like when he don't want to get out. He just wants to know what I'm kind of game planning, and he's pretty much like, I got plenty of food, and I said let's just shoot for 11, and we hadn't seen anything at that point, and we can see a lot of timber there. Like we can
You
see
can see.
300 yards at one point,
Yeah.
and we're like, we haven't seen a deer, this is not very good movement. And then I hear boom, boom. I'm like, yeah, homie just shot something. I look at my mobile cam, and I'm like, oh, yep. Know what that was, because he's sitting at the stand right by the mobile cam, and I'm like, you get it down? He goes, yeah. So I'll let you tell you.
So I told Cody already knew I was going to the stand with the mobile cam there, and I haven't been back there in the dark. I've been back there, to hang the cam, check the straps on everything, early season, and then I got a new phone, so I lost it on Hunt Stand, mark it. So I was like, oh, geez.
I was like, just go to the ridge and walk until you think that you've gone way too far, and then you'll find it.
Yeah, yeah. Like if you start going downhill.
So you're on the west side.
Yeah.
Not the northeast corner, but the northwest side.
Right. I'm deep. I'm deep. So
yeah, I got you.
I told Cody, I said, get ready to get a picture of me on the mobile cam, because you're probably gonna find me coming back to that stand, because I ain't gonna go deep enough. But I come out maybe 10 yards in front of the cam. I seen the cam, and then I was like, okay, well, the stand's right back there. Get up there. I get everything set up, get my camera set up. Don't even mess with the settings or anything, don't mess with my ISO or nothing. I'm just sitting there. And 10-7, here comes a doe and a yearling out of the bedding, and they go literally right in front of the mobile, and then they get by me. I swing the camera over, I get it on them, and I get them in frame. I'm still running manual focus, and I thought when they first come out that I got it focused on them, and then they just walk straight across, so I'm like, oh yeah, I'm good. And I'm like, okay. And then she's looking right at me, which Cody always says, deer, when you're in that stand, deer just, for some reason, always bust you. And
But does bust you. Bucks have no clue you're there.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what it is about a damn doe. They're just like, oh, yeah, there's a dude up there. But I told you, if they're on the downhill side, you cannot stand up. And I got that branch and stuff there for cover. I told you, I told him, we need to get this stand 5 foot higher. You're like, that'd be like 32 foot, bro.
Yeah,
I'm like,
dude.
well, that's what we got to do, because we keep getting busted.
I'm like, if you want to shoot a deer that's hitting the mobile cam, I mean, that's straight down.
yeah. But
So doe's looking back at me. Yearling has no idea I'm there. And then she looks away from me. I get the gun up, shoot her. Dude, I've looked at this footage probably 30 times. I'm pretty sure I missed that bitch.
the first
That
shot. I was like, I see shot, and then I was like, yeah, he missed. Boom! No third. Yeah, he got it. No third
So,
shot.
on film, trying to be, cool, legit. And then she starts running towards the ravine. I'm like, oh man, I need to shoot her again and get her down.
You don't want her to go in that
No.
ravine.
Right.
You don't want
So
That's a whole.
yeah. So I shoot her again, and on the film, you can definitely tell I hit her. But on the first shot, I mean, it's out of focus,
Yeah.
but it's my first kill on film. But on the first shot, dude, it's just leaves. It's just leaves.
Heck yeah.
I'm like, man, I'm not sure I hit that deer looking at the film, But definitely the second shot, which would explain where I hit her, when we were dragging her out. I'm like, oh yeah, dude, I definitely did not hit her on the first one. So that's gonna be cool when we put that out. And then she had that fawn with her, and then that fawn just hung around for,
Ever. As
Two-
2 days later.
like 7.
Where'd my
So
mom go?
that was 650 or 650-ish, and you shot Mr. Freeze at 910, and that yearling is still around. And then I had 2 other does come running in on me, and I'm like, oh yeah, 2 younger does. I'm like, there's gonna be a giant pushing them. Nope, just 2 does. And then I don't know what this. So I thought the yearling that was with the doe I shot was a doe, but it ended up being a button buck. And then he like comes in posturing to these other 2 does. Comes in, ears pinned back, hide all stiffed up. I'm like, what are you doing, man? And then he's just fawn bleeding, so I got some pretty cool audio of that.
Oh, yeah, that's cool, though.
So, I mean, he's just working like, a 500-yard circle.
Right.
And every time you think he's gone, he comes back. I'm just like, oh, dude.
Making you feel terrible.
Yeah, so I'm like, does Jake want me, or does Jake, want to shoot a deer? And you're like, he wants to shoot a deer. I'm like, okay, cool. Because, I mean, I could shoot a deer right now. And then I got film of a doe, like, licking the mobile cam. I was like, hey, did you get that?
Yeah, I got some sweet pics.
You're like, yeah, dude, all I see is a nose. And then I seen a doe and a yearling come out from, like, the double man stand or the bedding, the grass that Mr. Freeze was
so
in.
you had all the does that morning.
So I had all the does that morning. And
it was hilarious.
we should have probably just traded spots. You got Jake a doe, and I'd have shot Mr. Freeze, and everybody would have been fine.
Yeah, so Jake's like, Homey just shot something. I was like, yeah, that was definitely Homey. I looked at my mobile. I'm like, yeah, I just shot a doe. And I said, did you get her? He goes, yeah. How do you know? I'm like, oh, I got a pick her around the mobile cam. I said, you hit her at 5 yards? I guess he didn't hit her at 5 yards.
No, because when we went in there, I was like, oh, yeah, this is where I shot her.
Yeah.
Didn't find no blood. Then we started just like walking where the rest of the leaves
You knew
were.
where she crashed, but
yeah, I knew right where she was, but just like to follow it back. And I was like, dude, I can't believe there's no blood here or nothing, which would go back and explain why. And so at 7:20, I'm like the hero of Whitetail Legacy because I've got a kill on film. And I'm getting awesome footage of other deer, of other deer going around. I'm like, man, dude, this is sweet. And then, Cody texted me, said, hey, we're going to try to sit till 11. What do you think about that? I'm like, yeah, it's cool. We're supposed to get some weather. Temps are good. So, that doe's fine just laying right where she is. I know she's down, and we're good. And then, I'd like to go back and see what you text me, but you text me something. Oh yeah, you text me about that 8-pointer.
Yeah.
Do you want to go into that?
Yeah,
and then
sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're sitting there and we know Homey shot deer. And we're not like an insanely far way away from
No,
Homey,
what are we, 350? 300?
Probably not even that far, really.
So
No.
I'm like
Maybe
he's
only 250,
I'm like he's
200.
seen a lot of does and we're in that pinch. I'm like maybe something maybe a doe will come through at this point, And I'm like, Jake kind of look back there and make sure. And then Jake, see, I'm kind of on the stand facing this way, and Jake's kind of facing right where all the deer movement's going to be.
Right.
And he's like, he taps me, and he goes, hey. I go, yeah. He goes, I think I seen something over there. I'm not really sure.
Over where?
Over, like, down towards the creek.
On
like-
his side?
No, others. Like,
On
towards
your
the
side?
south. Yeah. Towards the south side. Towards the creek. Like where I carried Rainer, or where I carried Taylor, piggyback Taylor across.
Damn, how the hell did you miss that?
I don't know.
Sleeping?
No. And he was like, I think I seen something over there. And I was like, okay. And I was looking over there. I'm like, yeah, I can see something. We couldn't really tell what it was then. And then out pops this mid-130s 8. Real solid, real nice browse, heavy 8-pointer. He's about 70 yards. And of course, like I pull the gun up, and Jake's like, "Are you gonna shoot him?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not gonna do it." I look at him, and Jake really can't get a good look at him. He's seen him coming down, but he's kind of got a tree in his way.
I mean, he filled up his book bag with pot stickers, not binoculars.
Yeah.
He's eating, not looking.
Yeah. So I'm looking at him. I get my binocs on him, and I get the scope on him. I'm like, it's a good shot. I mean, I got a good clean shot on him. I could have hit him right behind the shoulder, and kind of like the rest of his body was kind of hidden behind the brush, and he turning over there and looking, and I get a really good look at him without doing anything.
Just in the scope?
Yeah, in the scope, and I binoculed him too, and I scoped him first and decided no, and then I was like, I want to double.
You are a scoping
Yeah.
dude. I mean,
Yeah.
You see a squirrel on a tree, you don't know what it is. Scoping.
Yeah, I binocular scope it out.
Right.
That movement, man, I'm just like, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So I scope like crazy, binoc like crazy. I like to just last light. I like to just binoc like constantly. Just binoc to really see if I can see any movement.
I know if you got a good pair of binocs, dude, you can pick up movement like no other.
So I was binocking that deer, and Jake's like, he's amped at this point and he looked at me, he goes, he's breathing heavy. He's like, this biggest deer I've ever seen. I'm like, yeah, it was a nice deer. I'm like, that was a great deer. I was like, I mean, if there would have been different circumstances, I probably would have shot the deer. If I didn't have a shotgun, if it had been real close, with a bow, I've passed a deer that size already that year, so I'm like, I'm not gonna do that, And then I text Homey. This is at like 9:00.
Yeah, this is literally straight up 9.
I text Homey. I'm like, just passed a real solid 8, and then he texts me like the most douchebag text ever.
So Cody's giving me shit for having to come down, drive 2 hours, drag my buck out on Wednesday. So I text him. I said he texts me, just passed a really solid 130s 8. I said, and you're the one giving everybody shit about having your hands on everybody else's antlers.
Because I drug out another buck that the neighbor shot that's the day before.
Yeah. So
I didn't even tell that story.
No,
oh my god.
Neighbor shot a nice buck.
Yeah, decent 8.
A pretty good 8.
Yeah. So what I did was I pulled a trail cam like a dumb shit
On Friday.
Yeah. And I bumped a deer right to the neighbor
in a lawn chair.
And he was just sitting in a lawn chair in the middle of the timber. And he puts a hell of a shot on this deer. 100-yard shot through the timber. Perfect hit. And just it makes it make 40 yards off all the blood. And I'm walking out. And at this point,
yeah,
you can see me, right?
I'm in the road.
Yeah, you're in the road walking down.
Yeah.
And that's because we were going to move stands. We're going to move stands and get back. We're going to get across the creek and get over there. And that's when we did that. No, we did that before.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't hang the double set.
Yeah.
So,
I'm walking down the road. I can see Cody's orange, and then I hear 2 shots. I'm like, well, damn. Like, you sat... No, that was Friday.
Yeah, that was Friday. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. We're talking about the neighbor's buck. Yeah.
Right.
So, here are 2 shots. I'm like, I text Cody, which I had a missed call from Cody. I don't even know why he called me. But then I text him. I said, well, is it down?
Yeah.
Nothing. Get back to the truck, taking my stuff off. Cody's calling me. Yeah, I'm coming. Well, did you get it down? Nope, wasn't me. I'm like, what do you mean it wasn't you? I was standing at the road. I could see your orange, and I heard 2 shots. What do you mean it wasn't you? No, the guy back here sitting in a lawn chair, kicked a buck up to him. Really good shot.
Yeah.
just nailed him. So went back there. I said, so you're all the way up here, heard them shots, and then you went walking all the way back there? And then drug a deer?
Yeah. Well, when I heard the shots, I'm like, oh, man, that's the trail cam that I got all these pics of Mr. Freeze at. I'm like, dude.
I got to go back there just to make sure it's
I
not
just
him.
talked to this guy. Like, I was walking out, and he's right there. And he was like, yeah.
You walked 3 yards from him?
Yeah. I haven't been hunting for 6 years, and I'm finally getting back into it. And I was like, cool, man. I'm like, yeah, this is good. This is a decent spot, And I'm all about everybody shooting deer, But when you got a deer like this out there, you're like, man, here's another guy. And it's not really like I'm thinking he's gonna shoot him, but I'm thinking, okay, the wind's wrong for where he's setting at. He's sent blowing into where I think this deer is possibly going.
If Mr. Freeze is gonna show up, it's gonna be at 4 yards on his back door.
Yeah, and he's out. He's in the middle of the timber in a lawn chair, no cover around him at all. And I'm thinking, I mean, there's nothing wrong if you hunt like that, but that's just not how I hunt, So I'm thinking, and then I hear the shots, and I'm like, dude, if that's Mr. Freeze when I walk up there, I'm gonna throw up everywhere, because this amount of work. Like this is the first time he's ever set foot on this piece,
Right.
Like ever. Goes out there.
Props to him for knowing the property line too.
Yeah,
that was
up there, and I'm like, I look over there, I'm like, oh, okay, all right. I'm like, oh, it's definitely a buck. I could tell by the body, and then I see its head propped up. I'm like, oh god, man, it looks like a nice buck. And I'm thinking, okay, it's 8 with the kicker. It's M14. It's a deer that we want to potentially pass, and really see what happens next year. I get up there, and it's an 8 that we got on trail cam, like 125, 130. I'm like, okay. That's a good deer, great deer, and he he's jacked about it. He's already to the buck by the time I get there, and it's pretty far drag to the road. And I'm like, I really never know that. I'm like, you want some help dragging it? And he's like, really? I'm like, yeah, because he's hunting, by himself. I'm like, I'm like, yeah, man, I'll help you drag it out. So he's a big boy too. Yeah. We needed him on Mr. Freeze drag out.
Yeah, right.
But I grab him, and we just take off, and it's probably a 3.5-year-old deer, and not huge bodied, just nice buck. And we get him to the road. I'm like, yeah, you can probably drive back here, and get him, and be able to get him out real easy. He's like, thanks, man. He's like, I was gonna hunt tomorrow morning, but I don't think I'm going to now. And I'm like, that's perfect, bro. I'm like, that's absolutely perfect. Great. I'm glad you got a deer down. You're stoked. He's like, yeah, this is probably the second biggest, if not the biggest buck I've ever shot. I'm like, that's awesome, man. And I spend a little time with him talking about what happened and how the shot was. And I was like, yeah, I bumped that deer right to you. He's like, yeah. He's like, it ran, stopped, and looked back to where you came. And I was like, yeah. I pulled a cam up there, and he's like, oh yeah, those are your cams, I'm like, yeah, those are my cams. And he's like, yeah. He's like, there's a lot of sign up there. And I was like, yeah. And then he's like, Dad, this is probably the buck that was making all that sign. And I was like, yeah, it probably was. I mean, I'm not being a dick, but I'm not letting all my secrets out that I put in the works. I'm like, yeah, that's probably the buck that's been making all these scrapes and stuff around here, And he's like, yeah. He's like, he works for the railroad in the pit or something. He's like, I got to work tonight, so I probably won't be out here tomorrow morning. I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, I'll be going through here in the morning if you're out here. And he goes, okay. So I get out, and then Homey, we'll go back into the next day. Homey shot his doe, and I'm texting him. I just passed that 8-pointer. And Homey's like, you're already griping about dragging 2 deer out within a week, and they're not yours. I love that stuff. If anybody calls me for a track job, like, I love going. I like seeing deer. If someone gets a deer down, I'll go look at it 20, 30 miles away just to, look at it. I love deer. I love the stories that it creates. I love the work that people put in to get it done. And then, so he passed that 8-pointer. And Jake's like, that's the biggest deer I've ever seen. So I'm like, okay. I'm like, I'll grunt at it and see if maybe we can pique its interest. So I grab the grunt tube, hit 2 grunts, and then I throw a doe estrus bleed at it. And a couple minutes, maybe a minute later, maybe a few minutes later, Jake goes, there's a deer. And I look at it, and Jake's like, if you know Jake, like in the video, you're hear him. He goes, you got him, man. Just the most melatonin. He's jacked, but he's just melatonin as hell. That's just his personality. So he goes, there's a deer. And this is a guy who's hunted public, and I think he's missed a doe with his bow once. He just hasn't. He wants to get into it. He's really pumped to get into it, but he hasn't really got into it. He works a lot like I do. Same job. He's got family, couple kids, one with a health problem. He's got a lot going on, And he goes, there's a buck. He said, there's a deer. And I looked at it, and I said, oh, that's a shooter. I said, oh, that's a shooter. And I seen it, and I was like, oh, that's a big deer. And what I always tell Homey is once I establish that it's a shooter, I do not look at its rack any longer. I am focusing on my cycle of what I need to do to make the shot. So I can remember the shot sequence perfect. I literally turn the camera on and put it to Jake, and I say, hey, man, do the best you can. Never touched my camera before at all, but his wife's a photographer on the side, so he's got a little experience with it,
With a DSLR.
With a DSLR.
But, hey, here's a camera that's 4K capable.
Yeah, here's a camera 4K capable.
See what
you gotta
can do.
you gotta touch focus it. There's a zoom. I didn't tell him any of that. He just got it. So this buck is 80 yards coming in, and I get my scope on him, and I got it. I was scoping that 8-pointer, so I was all the way deep on 9.
I wonder why you're on 9.
To get a good look at that buck.
All right. Okay.
So I was like, and so I'm on him, and I'm like, okay, I can't shoot him here. So I back off to about 5, and I get back on him. I'm like, all right, he's got to clear these 2 trees, and he's head down. He's just cruising, I'm like, all right, he doesn't know I'm here. No idea. And I don't know if it was a bow hunter in me or what it was. I went, man, like, I got a shotgun, bro. Like, you ain't got to stop him,
I mean,
now that I think about it, like.
He was on a march, though.
Yeah, he was on a march, but I mean, I don't.
He wasn't gonna like.
He was 60 yards. I mean, how quick is a bullet gonna get there? You know what I mean?
He wasn't gonna like spook off at any second.
So like, he's like, there's like the bow hunter in me again. There's like 2 little tiny limbs. I'm like, when he clears those 2 little tiny limbs, I'm gonna take the shot. Like,
Instead of just plowing through.
Instead of just sending it, And so he clears them. I go, Matt. Didn't even pick his head up, nothing.
No,
and
he
I'm
just
like,
keeps moving.
I'm like, all right, time to send it, at this point, and I boom, and I know I hit him. He kicks, he runs down towards us, takes off, and and he's going, and he's making it about 40 yards at this point, and I'm like, man, that shot felt good. I'm like, I'm gonna send another. So I go out of instinct, boom! I don't even come close to hitting him the second time. And then he tries to, like, jump this little washout and just crashes right there. And then I just break down, And he's 60 yards laying up there on top of the hill. And he's almost eye level with us in that stand.
Yeah.
And I scope him. And I don't get the binocs out. I just scope him on 5. And I'm like, it's a really solid buck. Did I call you or did you call me?
No, you called.
I called you.
I text you. I said, you get it down? Or,
Yeah.
because I didn't know if it was you or Jake.
Yeah.
I just know you passed that decent 8, so I'm like, well, shit, what's the chance of two solid bucks going by? So I'm like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, and 5, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, I got to doe down, looking for somebody else, double up with, it'd be cool. Especially Jake on his first deer.
Yeah.
And I know that's what you guys went back there for. So I text you, and then you started calling me. I was like, oh, geez.
Yeah. And then the first thing that Homey says is, did you get him? I was like, I got a buck down. Because at this point, I had a real good feeling that it was Mr. Freeze, but I didn't want to believe that it was Mr. Freeze.
So when I answered the phone, I could just tell Cody was shook. And I was like, dude, you shot him. And you're like, no, I didn't shoot him, but I shot a really solid buck. It's probably my biggest buck, and it's a solid 12. I'm like, at that point, like, I mean, I was jacked up because I'm just like, oh, dude, that's your biggest buck. And I was just like, where the hell is Mr. Freeze at? Like, we're out here. We've been out here. I was expecting somebody to at least get eyeballs on him, So, I mean, I was kind of rejected that it wasn't Mr. Freeze because I wanted you to shoot him. And you're like, well, it's a solid 12, But then I'm just adding up the inches. I'm like, well, it's going to be your biggest buck that you ever shot, regardless, bow, gun.
I told you 160s, 170s.
Yeah.
I said it's a 160s, 170, 12-pointer.
So I was like,
I said
all right.
it's a giant.
Yeah, I was like, all right, dude.
And then you're like, have you looked at him yet? I'm like, no. I'm gonna wait. This is how badass it was. I was like, I'm gonna wait and see if you can bump one of those does to Jake. I was still banking on Jake getting a doe shot. Yeah. Thank God he didn't. We'd had 2 deer to drag out.
Because I was like, dude, fawn coming back. I was like, I got does coming out of the double man stand. Does went in that bedding.
Yeah. I'm like, just cross that draw and see if you can push a doe to us. And I just gave Jake, I said, he's using a muzzle loader that's good for 50 yards. And I'm like, here's my shotgun. This is going to be a little further shot. But if a doe comes down, you're ready to go. I'm like, let's just walk over there. And we're kind of, chit-chatting quietly to each other. And Jake's like, you did it, man. And I'm crying at this point. I cried after I shot him, And it wasn't because I shot it with Mr. Freeze. It was just because the amount of work. Dude. I've talked about this on this podcast. Like, I love deer hunting, right? And I put in a ton of work. But there's never been a year where every week for the whole entire year I do something deer related.
Yeah.
And it's because of this podcast. We're talking about deer. We're moving stands. We're running trail cams. We're talking to some guy from Texas. We're talking to some guy in Ohio about last year's. Every week, our whole focus is about deer. Then we're listening to podcasts. It's just a nonstop.
Trying to get that extra tip.
A nonstop deer marathon for the whole year. When mostly it was like I shot my bow all year round because I love shooting my bow. But I'm shooting my bow. I'm thinking about killing turkeys and stuff. But during turkey season, we're talking about deer hunting.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So we're at Elmwood Show in March, and we're looking at giant bucks, and we're just doing nonstop deer stuff all year round. And it was just the amount of work and effort that it went in, and the amount like Nick said, I hunted all that time. I hunted 4 days straight. Yeah, I hunted 4 days straight, 3 all-day sets. Then I drove to Missouri, 300 miles, got there at 1 in the morning, woke up, hunted that morning, hunted that evening, hunted all the next day, drove back 300 miles, with no deer down. Not even a doe.
Dude,
I haven't even shot a doe at this point.
I was giving you props for fucking getting up at Missouri.
Yeah, that
was brutal.
I'm running, but I've never was nah, screw this, But when I talked to Nick, I was like, I said the same thing to you. It's we got what, 5 days? I took Monday off. I'm like, we got 5 days or 4 days till shotgun season. I'm not gonna hunt. I'm gonna keep it fresh. I'm gonna take a break, and I'm gonna just reset, get all my stuff back together from going to Missouri, and get my shotgun ready, get everything going, and then Friday I'm ready to go. And that was my plan. Talked to Nick. I said I'm just gonna take a break. I'm burnt out.
Yeah.
I've just put 600 plus miles in a car, after hunting 3 days straight. And cold temps, and people say all day sit. It's freaking brutal, dude. And the second and the third day is super brutal.
Yeah. Sitting all day in the cold will just suck the life out of you for days after you're done.
We were talking about that. The third, fourth day of the rutcation was just, you're and what was bad was the rut was so bad. You didn't even have any action. No midday movement at all. You had 6 hours you were sitting there and no deer. Mm-hmm. And then we seen that freaking possum that night. I'm like, if I see a possum, that's bad luck. We know that. 2 nights in a row, 2 nights this year, I seen a possum, didn't see any deer. I'm like, if I see a possum, I might as well pack it up and go home because I'm not seeing a deer. But I broke down in that stand, and you guys hear it from the video.
Dude, yeah.
I was just
I'm not sure they're going to hear it.
We're going to have to fix it a little bit. But
dude, it was the quickest. I would not have been that quick to be emotional. But even if it was my biggest buck, I'd have been it's not even down yet. But maybe it's just because you knew that you smoked it.
Yeah.
But dude, you're just he might be down. It's hard to tell from the video because I wasn't there.
He's down, yeah.
So he's down, and then just at the last. So the video is 52 seconds of the
Super
kill shot.
short.
Yeah. So he's coming in. Cody, deer doesn't do anything. Cody shoots him still on the move. Deer runs back into frame because he just threw the camera to Jake. Hey,
Jake was watching the shot.
Do your best, bud. Yeah. And then the deer, he disappears, and then you hear Cody shoot again, and then
it pans up, and he's picking his head up.
It kind of pans up,
time.
Deer's down, and then it's his last, roll of the neck.
Yeah.
Or just the weight of his antlers, because the damn things, that's 9 pounds. Yeah. So, just the weight of his antlers, just getting his head over. And, man, dude, it just had to be that you seen him go down, and you're just like, dude, we just got it done.
Yeah, like it was a multitude of things. At that point, I was burnt out.
Yeah.
Man. I was just like, I was on the edge of like, just like I told you when we were talking to Steve Stoltz. I know I was not smart enough to kill that deer, and that's where I was at. Like, I'm like, I cannot. I don't feel like I can. I felt good when we got the trail cam pictures in October.
Yeah.
But then when we were getting in November and moving on, I'm like, man, I got the first week of November, and then that's it. And that's it.
Well, looking back now, okay, what can you do if the deer's nocturnal? What can you do?
You just got to hunt hard and hunt smart. That's all you can do.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
so that's what I'm saying. Looking back, like, the deer's nocturnal. There might be a slim chance of him popping up, and I don't know what I said. I think it was just literally last week. I said, we were hunting hard because I heard on the Steve Stoltz episode when I was listening to it. It made it sound like we weren't hunting this deer, but we were the whole month of October.
Yeah.
So we're literally hunting there, but I think when we get another giant, wherever it may be, whenever it may be, we need to. That's as nocturnal as
We
he
need to
is.
realize that we're way closer to him than we think we are. For
That.
one.
Yeah.
And if he's still showing up, we haven't messed him up.
Yeah.
Right.
And all it takes is
Right.
one wind change,
Yeah.
one hot doe. If it's
Got to
if it's
keep
in the
hunting
rut,
crazy hard
you just have to keep at it.
on the edge, just like we were. Just keep doing what you're doing. If he's still showing up and you're not messing him up,
Just keep-
repeatedly do what you keep doing.
Like I said at the beginning, if you're not there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you don't know.
And what you're doing is not messing him up. You're still getting picks. He's still doing
And
what
then
he's
when
doing.
the time's right, you got to crush in there like we did. You got to
Yeah.
crush in and get those real good sets.
we haven't even touched on that.
If we would have hunted that back stand early, I do not think we would have seen the deer movement like we did.
I was going to touch on that in my spiel, and I forgot. So you have the double man stand, and you have the back stand,
Yeah.
or the
Yeah.
shotgun stand. And, I mean, they're deep, but I didn't even ask you why we aren't hunting there. I know the shotgun stand is probably, just from looking at it, where it was, is probably not a good bow stand because
Right.
you need shit close.
Right.
I've had a lot of deer within range, bow range there
Yeah.
during shotgun season.
Yeah,
Right.
But
move the stand and you get one
Yeah.
in range, But man, I didn't even ask that because I knew it was too deep.
yeah, when you got that deer and you got limited access to proper, limited access was the problem. Like if
Yeah.
if we could have accessed that from the other side, or we could have accessed it from the north on the south wind and got like tucked up in that top field
Oh,
or something.
yeah.
That's great. That's great. But if you can't access that, and we never hunted on a south wind,
The only way
never hunted on an east wind.
only way to access that would be and not mess up anything would be on a north wind and walk that whole draw until you're straight away from where the stand is now
Yeah.
after we moved it. Mm-hmm. And that's the only way. But then you're still walking through all that open timber.
Yeah,
Which
they can see forever.
the neighbor killed that decent 8 on.
Yeah.
So I mean,
There's stuff better than there we think's not better than there. But that's
Right.
one thing we really need to realize is we had this deer figured out.
we did.
We had him figured out.
and that's what we both said after we
After
you
we shot him, we were like, well, he was headed to that bedding area.
Yeah, because he just goes straight down, crosses the creek, up a little hill,
Yeah, boom,
on a
he's there.
flat, and boom, he's there.
Yeah.
He was going straight there. He did not even think about going on the neighbors.
No.
Wasn't even thinking about it.
No. So,
He's going to use that pinch,
yeah.
and then right where I seen that 2.5-year-old 8-point come from.
Yeah. He's going to cruise that, hit that ditch draw, run that ditch draw with the wind, right to the stand, or right to that
Right to the
piece,
bedding.
and then boom, he's
Because
safe.
his north is working right in his face.
Because he know he's safe right there.
Right in his face.
Yeah, because he know he's safe right there. There's no one in that piece, so he's going
No.
right there.
Yeah.
So
He's like, oh, I'm just going to go 5 yards right by the double man stand on top of this ridge.
Yeah.
Got the wind right in my face. So, I know we've talked about on this podcast, this deer's, eluding us. And, I mean, he was.
oh yeah,
He was.
He was nocturnal
He's just
as hell.
very nocturnal, but we knew his tendencies on a southwest wind. We knew where he's bedding. We had him coming out of the bedding.
yeah.
And we were right there. He was right there, and
we had him figured out, but we just in our mind we were like, and you even hear it in.
We're just like we're just getting our ass kicked.
Yeah,
you know?
we're hearing it in the video. Like I'm like, why are you here? That
Yeah.
I say that openly
Yeah.
when I'm holding him after I freak out, which luckily isn't on film. You
The
see
first-
that? I don't know what that guy was that was released on Facebook where he like gets a hold of a deer and yeah, mine was better than that, bro. My God, I don't know what.
Oh, I'm gonna throw up.
Yeah, I almost threw up, man. I'm like,
So after Cody gets a hold of Mr.
okay, yeah, we got to go back to the story. Shit, we keep getting tangent off. Nick Brown's falling asleep over here. So I get the deer down. I call Homey. I'm like, I just shot the biggest deer of my life.
And then
He's 60 yards away, and Homey goes, "Have you went up and looked at him?" I said, "No." I said, "Let's push it. See if you can push a doe to Jake. See if you can get a doe down." And me and Jake like already really looking at the deer. We're just like talking about like, and we're hugging it out, you know, and for a while. And he's like, "You did it, man." I'm like, it just feels good to be like, okay, all this work, all this time, 100, that many hours in stand. That's not driving. That's not hanging stands. That's not pulling trail cams. That's not getting Boonertown cut up with the mowing and the hanging stands and that's not all the hours that I have in it. That's ass in seat. If you add the time walking to the stand and walking out of the stand, I mean, there's 30 hours right there. You know what I mean? It's ass in seat trying to kill a nice deer. I mean, that's a lot, and me and Jake, he's like, you did it, man. And I'm like, at this point, I'm like, that looks like Mr. Freeze, man. I mean, I'm like,
you thought that?
yeah, because when you got there, I was like, do you think that's Mr. Freeze?
All right, go back to when he jumped the fence. Did you think that was Mr. Freeze?
When he jumped the fence, like I told you,
And so
I realized
when Jake's, I don't know when Jake's seen it, if he jumped before or after when Jake's seen it. Okay, so he already jumped the fence.
He already seen it.
So
no, he's seen it before he jumped the fence.
Okay.
Yeah, he's seen it, said there's a buck, and just like I told you, when I see that it's a deer that I want to shoot, I do not focus on anything but how am I going to kill this thing.
Right.
So I knew that it was a giant buck, but I knew better after what I shot when it was laying on the ground than before I shot it.
Okay, so you're like, shooter
I can
buck.
look at the frame and be like, that's a shooter buck. And the reason I thought it was 12 was because of inside kickers. I seen sit 5 tines, and I knew that he probably had a brow tine. So I seen 5 tines. I'm like, that's a 12. I seen 5 tines each side.
Yeah.
Because when they're 60 yards trotting, you're like,
Yeah.
there's 5 tines. That's a 12-pointer.
Right.
He's got a lot of tines. I could
You're like-
tell he had huge mass.
Well, there's a lot of antler there.
Yeah, there's a lot
It's
of
going down.
There's a lot of antler. And at that point,
This wasn't the 138 that just went by.
yeah,
Right.
this wasn't
Yeah.
138. Like, there was a huge difference. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I could tell that this was substantially bigger, you know?
Okay,
And-
so when you shot him, I just want everybody to know that you didn't know it was
No,
Mr.
I did
Freeze.
not know.
No idea.
I had
Okay.
no idea.
And
I
then
just knew that it was a
when you-
giant buck.
When you even called me and said, get your ass over here, and I'm like, right when I answered the phone, I said, you shot him, and you're like, no.
Well, the reason
I just shot a nice buck.
the reason I didn't think I would shoot him because in my mind, I'm like, this deer is 100% nocturnal.
Mm-hmm.
He has no reason to be here at all.
None.
And
None right now because there's no
Yeah.
hot does.
there's no
that
hot
you've seen.
does. There's nothing there. I just, like, in my mind.
He's not going to bed within
in
a sight
my
range of-
mind, I felt like, okay, that it just can't be him. Like there's no way I just shot this deer. After I called you and I scoped him, I was like, all right, this might be this deer, And then when you got there,
So-
you're like, where's he at? I'm like, he's up there. I'm like, do you think that's Mr. Freeze? And you're like, oh, it's pretty massy.
So I come hauling ass through the woods. I'm like, all right, I'm trying to kick a deer up for Jake because that's what I got told to do. And then I'm in a part of the property I've never even been before. I'm like, all right, I got to follow this fence and just go down, and it'll just L right to you. And then I walked right by that scrape or that rub.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, dude, I want to take a picture, but I got to get over here. So I'm just like, all right, this rub is right here. Get over there, get to the bottom of the tree. I'm like, all right, where's this deer at?
Yeah, you're like, where's he at?
I'm like, where's he at?
He's right there.
You're like, he's right there on the hill. So I look up there. I'm like, ooh. I'm like, okay. If it's Mr. Freeze, he's broke as shit.
Yeah.
Like all I seen was the G1 or the G2 and the G3. That's all I see, and then just main beam the rest of the way. So I'm
A
like,
lot
man,
of main beam. You're like, I was
yeah,
like, damn,
a
that's-
lot of main beam.
Yeah.
So I'm like, man, dude, he's broke.
Yeah.
I'm like, but as we get closer, I'm like, there's no deer that's this massy running around that we've had on cam.
So so for some reason, Homey didn't film it. Luckily, but
So
anyway,
no. Here's the problem. We get down out of the, just like when you come to my and get on my buck, like you're on a different camera.
yeah,
You don't know all the settings. You don't know all the tricks and tips, you
Yeah.
know. So I get the camera in my hand. I hit the record button. And then we start going. And then Cody starts sprinting. I'm just like, why can't you just like be chill and walk up to this deer, you know?
Because he's been sitting there now for how long?
Yeah.
How
So-
long? I mean,
I literally go like 4 steps, hit the record button on accident, so I'm stopped recording.
Well, what
And-
it was like, there's like a little hill.
What
then
it was
flat.
is you just hit a 190 and it's down.
Yeah, a little hill and then a flat and then a little hill. Well, when I got up that little hill and got on the flat, I was like, it's fucking Mr. Freeze. So I'm full sprint at this point. Like, is this really him? And then I
Right.
get up there and I lose my marbles, you know. If anybody was hunting within a mile, they knew I just shot that buck.
They know the name and everything.
They're like, someone just shot Mr. Freeze over there. I don't know what that is. Someone just shot a buck named Mr. Freeze or a doe or something.
So we start off cool for like 10 yards. And then, you know, just like Cody said, he gets on that flat, starts running, and I'm trying to run the camera. I obviously bumped the record button, and now we're not recording anymore because I have like 3 seconds of us just literally, you can see the sticks of the stand in the tree, and then it just stops. I'm like, oh geez. So we get up there sprinting at the end of this, and then I thought I was still recording at this point, and then Cody's up there, and I'm 10 yards away. He's probably 2 yards away, and then it's just literally. I'm like, oh, dude, when we were 20 yards away, I knew it. I was like, dude,
Right.
that deer's got inside tine, you know.
Right.
I was like, oh,
I remember he was laying east to west, and I got up there, and I got down on my knees.
we're coming straight south pretty much.
And I grabbed a hold of him, and I was just like, it's Mr. Bree. But it was octave high, way higher than that.
Yeah.
It's Mr. Bree. And I'm just like, you know, shaking a little bit, like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, you know, this is it. This is the moment, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, I sat there for a second, and I'm like,
Literally 2 seconds. Put his head down and the leaves, and then you're like,
yeah, I'm like,
I'm gonna throw up.
yeah, I'm like, I'm gonna throw up.
I was like, what?
Yeah, I'm like,
So,
I'm gonna throw up. And then I was
like-
like gagging for a few seconds.
I was like, all right, I'm gonna take this second to be sure I got the camera set up. I
It
was
was just like, it must pure adrenaline hit me, or like, I don't know, but I'm like, all right, I just did this, and it's all hitting me, you know? And then, like, I'm like, almost throwing up, like gagging, and then I get back down there, I'm like, it's Mr.
So when Cody's like, I'm gonna throw up, I was like, all right, I'm gonna get the camera, be sure it's dialed in, I'm still recording. I was like, shit, I'm not even recording in the first place. So then when Cody, like, after like 4 seconds of being down with the deer, says he's gonna throw up, comes back, I know I'm recording. He comes back on and he's like, it's Mr. Freeze.
And then that's when I'm like, what are you doing here? You know?
Oh, dude.
And then I'm like, you know, I still think to this day, you know I put a lot of time in, but I'm 26, man. Hopefully I got a long time to hunt. And to shoot a deer like that, you're like, I say it right there. I don't deserve this deer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like I put enough work in.
You're like, I don't deserve this deer, and just kind of like shun him away, and then just like, there's no way. Like,
Yeah,
I
I just
don't
set him
deserve
down
this
and
deer.
look at him like, you know, I don't understand that this just happened. You know, I mean, I've been hunting a long time with a bow since I was a kid, but not like I
Big
don't
buck,
know, not
like legendary.
hardcore, like I'm hunting a giant buck, you know, and to get it done, you know.
How about like targeting?
yeah,
Like you wouldn't say you're targeting.
yeah,
Right.
targeting.
I think that would be
yeah.
the right word, targeting.
Even the buck I lost, like I got a trail cam picture of him. I knew he was in the area, but he didn't have a 3-year sheds and just a buildup.
All right, I'm going to interject here at this point. I know we're getting up there in time, so next week we're going to start off our podcast. We'll talk about some special things Cody did on the recovery with Rainer and his family and how appreciative both of us were to be able to hunt a deer like this. We appreciate all you listeners making the long haul for this episode. So remember, get out there and hunt. I know it's cold. Start looking for a front and get on the food. So with that being said, have some fun, leave a legacy, and Whitetail Legacy is out.